Hey, I'm Atlanta City Council member Andre Dickens. For years, we have gathered together to walk and to stay healthy. Well, we're not going to let COVID-19 cancel our annual appointment. This year, the 6th annual Senior Walk and Exercise class is going virtual. Now join me Friday, October 2nd at noon for virtual exercise and activities that you can do from your own home.
7, 6.
Fitness pro Leslie Mangum will lead class with workouts catered for seniors. So go to bit.ly/Senior Walk 2020 to get registered for this free event, which will be live streamed on Zoom, Facebook, Instagram, and Atlanta Channel 26. Okay, now lace up your tennis shoes, grab your towel, grab your bottle of water, and your laptop or phone, and let's get it going, seniors. I'll see you online.
So glad you could take a few moments out for Stay at Home Connect. I'm Phyllis Jackson.
The FDA plans to issue more stringent standards for emergency use authorization of a COVID-19 vaccine. Agency officials say the goal of the guidance is to provide more transparency and increase public trust. The FDA will require vaccine manufacturers to closely follow clinical trial volunteers for at least 2 months after they receive a second dose of the vaccine. FDA officials are also asking that trials identify a determined number of severe cases of COVID in those who received a placebo during the trials. Few pharmaceutical companies are expected to have these results by November. That's a drone carrying a package for delivery. Inside, an at-home COVID-19 self-collection kit. Walmart teams up with Quest Diagnostics and drone provider DroneUp to kick off the trial deliveries in North Nevada and New York next month. Kits will be delivered within a 1-mile radius of specific Walmart supercenters. There's no fee for delivery or the kit for those who elect to receive their test at home. Customers can conduct a self-administered nasal swab and then send the sample back with a prepaid shipping label. Walmart expects the results of the trial will inform how the company will use drone delivery in the future.
Antonio Brown, look at him go.
5 NFL teams face fines after their head coaches failed to wear their face masks during their games. Head coaches Sean Payton of the New Orleans Saints and John Gruden with the Las Vegas Raiders are named among the latest to be fined $100,000 apiece. Other teams facing fines for coaches who failed to adhere to the policy: the Seattle Seahawks, Denver Broncos, and the San Francisco 49ers. Halloween will take on a new look this year. The CDC posts guidelines that do not support the standard trick-or-treating events. Tradition will have to take a back seat to safety in order to protect little ones from COVID-19 transmission. The guidelines, which are split into low, moderate, and high risk, also warn against haunted houses, which could lead to screaming, another potential infection route. The safest option, the CDC suggests pumpkin carving with the family, or outside with a safe social distance, or scavenger hunts. Officials also say costume masks are no substitute for cloth masks, but warn against wearing both, saying that a cloth mask with a Halloween theme is the safer option.
School lunches, new roads, Medicaid. Did you know that funding for these and other critical services are determined by data from the census?
Atlanta City Council member Carla Smith reminds us about Census 2020. You can register online, by phone, or by mail. The deadline is fast approaching. Go to atlcounts.org. That's atlcounts.org.
That's a wrap. We'll see you on the next edition of Stay at Home Connect.
Each election year, I'm reminded of the sacrifices that were made so that I could exercise my right to vote. I think about the fear that must have gripped the hearts of those who placed themselves in harm's way, opening the door for me, you, and future generations. These were incredibly courageous men and women. Among them, our nation's greatest civil rights leaders, Hosea Williams, C.T. Vivian, and Congressman John Lewis, and others who risked their lives so that we could cast our ballots freely. Let us not take the right to vote for granted. I'm Atlanta City Council Member Andrea Boone, reminding you to get registered to vote. The deadline for the November 3rd election is October 5th. Go to registertovote.sos.ga.gov. That's registertovote.sos.ga.gov. Let us honor the memory of those who made our ability to vote possible. Don't let their efforts go in vain. Let your voice be heard. Register and vote. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Atlanta City Council Member Andre Dickens. Census 2020 is upon us. The results of the census impact every aspect of our daily lives. Congressional representation, funding for schools, roads, and even hospitals. It's all determined by data from the census. It's just a few easy questions and will only take 10 minutes to complete. You can respond online, by phone, or by mail. ATL counts. Census 2020. Atlanta is counting on you.
Each election year, I'm reminded of the sacrifices that were made so that I could exercise my right to vote. I think about the fear that must have gripped the hearts of those who placed themselves in harm's way, opening the door for me, you, and future generations. These were incredibly courageous men and women. Among them, two of our nation's greatest civil rights leaders, Reverend C.T. Vivian and Congressman John Lewis, who risked their lives so that we could cast our ballots freely. Let's not take the right to vote for granted. I'm Atlanta City Council Member Michael Julian Bond, reminding you to get registered to vote. The deadline for the November 3rd election is October 5th. Go to registertovote.sos.ga.gov. That's registertovote.sos.ga.gov. Let us honor the memory of those who made our ability to vote possible. Don't let their efforts go in vain. Let your voice be heard. Use your power. Get registered and vote. Thank you.
Hey, I'm Atlanta City Council Member Andre Dickens. For years, we have gathered together to walk and to stay healthy. Well, we're not going to let COVID-19 cancel our annual appointment. This year, the 6th annual Senior Walk and Exercise class is going virtual. Now join me Friday, October 2nd at noon for virtual exercise and activities that you can do from your own home.
7, 6.
Fitness pro Leslie Mangum will lead class with workouts catered for seniors. So go to bit.ly/Senior Walk 2020 to get registered for this free event, which will be live streamed on Zoom, Facebook, Instagram, and Atlanta Channel 26. Okay, now lace up your tennis shoes, grab your towel, grab your bottled water, and your laptop or phone, and let's get it going, seniors. I'll see you online.
right, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Matt Westmoreland. I am chair of the Community Development and Human Services Committee. This is our regularly scheduled September 29th, 2020 meeting. I am joined on the call by council members Joyce Shepard, Amir Faroki, Carla Smith, Antonio Brown, Madeline Archibong, and we will be joined shortly by Councilmember Michael Julian Bond. Ms. Pulandini, will you read the remote meeting statement?
Yes, Mr. Chair, the Community Development Human Services Committee meeting is being conducted remotely as advertised and as in accordance with OCGA 50-14-1. The meeting will be conducted in conformance with Robert's Rules of Order and the Rules of Council as authorized by the City Code. The public may access the meeting by dialing 877-579-6743, conference ID 831-599-1256, which was noted on the September 25, 2020 public meeting notice. The public may also view the meeting on Channel 26, the Council's homepage at citycouncil.atlantagA.gov, the Council's YouTube channel, or the Council's Facebook and Twitter pages via @ATL Council. All presentations are available on the Atlanta City Council Community Development Human Services Committee presentation page. The agenda was published and made available on September 25th, 2020 via atlantacitygA.iqm2.com. In addition, the public was able to submit comments via voicemail at 404-330-6089 between the hours of 4 and 7 p.m. the day before this meeting. These comments will be played during the public comment portion of today's meeting. All persons present on the remote council meeting conference bridge are requested to mute your phones and speakers. Additionally, speakers must be acknowledged by the presiding officer prior to speaking. Each council member is requested to open your Outlook email and minimize the screen. Amendments, substitutes, and informational documents have been distributed to committee members beforehand. Thank you all in advance for your cooperation.
Thank you much. Colleagues, we are going to follow the agenda as printed. We have about an hour of public comment, which will commence shortly, and then a presentation from the Department of Parks and Recreation, the launch of the 2021 Comprehensive Development Plan, our regular agenda, a number of items that are coming off held, including the audit that we will receive regarding the management of Live Nation lease agreements. So with all of that, I will make a motion to adopt the agenda. Is there a second?
Second, Brown.
Motion by Westmoreland, second by Brown.
One moment, please. The vote is open. Vote is closed. There are some members.
Yeah, it's not working for me, Smith.
Okay. How would you like to vote, Ms. Smith?
Yay.
Mr. Faroki?
Yay. Sorry, I voted online. Didn't catch it.
Do not see you, but that's good to know. Mr. Bond, are you with us yet? All right. 6 yeas, 0 nays. The agenda is adopted. I will make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second, Brown.
Motion by Westmoreland, second by Brown. If you'll open that vote. Ms. Smith, how would you like to vote?
Why is this not working? It's yay, and I don't want to do this the whole time. Oh, wait, it's coming up. Maybe you don't have to ask me.
Very exciting. I don't have to ask Mr. Faroki either. Ms. Archibald? Here we go. 6 yeas, 0 nays. The minutes are approved. Mr. Massenberg, will you start our public comment, please?
Hi, this is Kara McCollum. I wanted to call in and comment on the city operating the tennis centers in Atlanta. I co-captain both an Alta team and a USTA team, and most of our players are playing tennis at least 2 to 3 times a week. And with the city managing the centers, our player experience has just not been what we have come to expect. We need a management company that can provide quality programming also a company that can put together special events for us, and also work with our league players. We have come to expect a management company that has the technology where we can go online and schedule classes and also pay for those classes online. And right now we're just unable to do so. And with all due respect, city employees can be better utilized in other positions within the government. I don't think managing tennis centers should be managed by city employees. I think in a city such as Atlanta with as many tennis players as we have, that the management of the tennis centers should be left up to tennis professionals. I hope you will reconsider running the tennis centers with a professional management company. Thanks for your time.
Hi, my name is Lenora. I'm calling in regards to the City of Atlanta tennis courts. I would really like to see the city do something about the management of the courts, whether that's Agave or another management company. We really need these courts available and get our tennis community going in the right direction. The current management is it's not working. If you guys could just get this stuff back on the docket and...
Hello, this is Tricia Mastering calling. I'm calling in regards to the City of Atlanta Tennis Centers, and I am calling to kind of express my opinion regarding this situation. I'm a former tennis director at Peach Performance Tennis. I managed a neighborhood facility of 12 courts and also managed a team of anywhere from 8 to 10 coaches over my career as a tennis director. And I just wanted to call and stress the importance of how important it is to have a management facility or a management company with the facility. Having the Parks and Rec department manage it is never a good idea. It usually turns out to not be very successful. Agave is certainly a excellent choice for a management company for City of Atlanta. They have, the staff, the coaches, the connections to truly make the City of Atlanta tennis centers and have a very impactful presence within the City of Atlanta. I also worked for the City of Alpharetta for many years at one of their courts, and when that was kind of turned over to the city, and there was a lack of leadership, and as a result of that, a lot of the lessons went down and teams, and resulted in many people not very happy with how the city was running it. So it's super important to have a director in there and a management company to help facilitate all those connections and stuff like that. So just calling, I've been known Agave and have followed them and supported them for many years as well, and know they've done an excellent job at the CAD Tennis Center and within the community, and a lot of happy clients that play there. And I think they would absolutely do an amazing job for the City of Atlanta, and it's just the right step. We're in the prime season here for tennis, the fall, and to get a management company in there as soon as possible is certainly something that the city is going to benefit from. The longer this goes on and the lack of programs and lack of teams, the worse tennis gets in the city. And, Atlanta is one of the best cities in the nation for tennis. And so having a management company lead something like a City of Atlanta is an excellent choice. So just calling the show. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. Again, Tricia Mastering, Peach Performance Tennis. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sandra Garrett, and I'm an active tennis player who participates in ALTA, takes lessons, and participates in other tennis activities in Atlanta. It is a great sport that so many in our city love. It's important for the city tennis centers to be operated by a professional tennis management company who brings a depth of expertise to the table. Atlanta needs a company who understands and knows how to facilitate tennis league play, tennis programs, camps, and events. It is also key to have deep expertise on how to hire and train tennis coaches and maintain the necessary technology to support and grow our tennis community. Tennis has given so much to Atlanta. It helps keep us active, and we've made many new friends through playing. Thank you for your time.
Hi, my name is Quincy Jones. I'm a tennis professional. I teach here in the Atlanta area. I've played the game at the collegiate level, at the pro level. I've actually taught at the collegiate level as well. I'm still a teaching pro right now, and I have a concern about the tennis program for the city of Atlanta. I know it's being run, I think, kind of just by part-time and city officials, and I would love to see a good operating system get in there. I would love to see Agape Tennis Academy get in there. They have amazing credentials, great programs on the court. They're great at getting teams going and getting trainings, camps, programs, and events, also some things that benefit the community in a way that's unimaginable if you never had a chance to see it and really experience it. So just wanted to get that out there and let you know that it would be great if we can get this vibrant, amazing tennis city kind of back to where it was. I know a lot of things happen, but we can get it back there if we allow the right company to come in and really do what they do so well. So just thank you for hearing my comment. And I would love, I've already talked to any guys that had it, I'm going to contribute as much as I can and help with programming in my area of expertise on court. And actually, we are looking at doing some programs off the court just for the people in the city, getting everyone just involved in it, becoming up with amazing sport and getting the tennis member. You know, it's that way for a reason. We would love to see it and grow the more. So thanks for hearing my comments, and I look forward to the excitement of having Agape Tennis Academy manage the Atlanta Tennis Center. Thank you so much.
I am Brother Anthony Muhammad, and I'm the spiritual being and a human experience. And I'm not a believer in a Roman Catholic Church religion, Christianity, and your scriptures of the Bible, from Genesis to Revelation, there's not one person, not one human was born from a woman's womb. I'm calling about the concern that I continue to see downtown Atlanta, all over by the Capitol, all over by I-20 exit, all the people with this little tent living on the street. The majority of people look like you and I. And then when I think about it, Mr. Westmoreland, all we have to do is use some of these buildings that we have abandoned, some of these business that is being not utilized for business, some of these apartment buildings that afforded us. Don't we know we all are one people on this earth, generating the vibration and frequency of energy for an avatar of what you call a body in the third dimension? Why don't we love what we have for ourselves and want that for our fellow brothers and sisters? Can't we have you, Caucasians, to do what they're doing all over the country? I see Caucasian Black Lives Matter. Yet all lives matter. But now the force of the city of Atlanta to be a force for the whole representation of all 159 counties. I'm from a small county. You know this was Florida. Your county from my own county. And we don't have resources for our representation in our community. We don't have opportunities as readily available for the Caucasian as if for darker hue or carbon 12 people, people of the Aboriginal indigenous people. Why is it that we got to continue not to have the non-effective example for a city that can say they're too busy to hate? But you're not doing anything with the resources to change the conditions of the people from being on the street. Our women don't even have houses. The women are doing the best they can, but we got a woman in the mayor position, a woman in the president of City Hall position, all the council members together. Don't you feel the energy of your fellow sisters? We are people connected to nature. Let's be like the Anthony Bean, that represents the motherhood of the universe. From the Matriarch Hotel. Do right by these people on the street. Do right, council people. Keisha.
My name is Henri Jordan. Giving honor to the Spirit of Christ. Let your light so shine before men, as they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. 5:16. He is the conditioned salt to meet the world's needs, and he has a mission, light to the world. Jesus said what he did in me is for his glory. When you work against Christ's glory, you reject your blessing. For those that seek my soul to destroy it, shall go into the lower parts of the earth. Psalm 53, chapter 9th verse. Enemies are mentioned only in passing. When you are an enemy to God's servants like David, you ask for help. If I am seeking to please God and then my government is fighting me, then he is asking for death. So I return and consider all the oppressions that are done under the sun. And behold, the tears of such as were oppressed, and they had no comforter. And on the side of their oppressors there was power, but they had no comforter. Ecclesiastes 4:1. It also considers the fight that oppression is so great in the world that the oppressed felt like dying. And in those days shall men seek death and shall not find it, and shall desire to die, and death shall flee from them. Revelation 9, chapter 6, verse. The pain will be like that of a scorpion. Let the fear of Jesus rule in me and you, because we should fear his wrath. These are the days of Revelation, the ending of the world. Christ, get prepared. Thank you, and obey Jesus.
This is Kyle Kessler. I'm calling today to voice my support for the launch of the 2021 Comprehensive OI Plan Update and the role of the Neighborhood Planning Unit in the public engagement process. The MPUs were created as an ongoing public engagement process to help the City of Atlanta create, update, and implement the CDP, a brand new requirement in the city's new charter in 1974. Back then, the CDP was updated annually, so there was never a time that the city and the MPUs weren't working on the CDP. Over time, the processes have changed, and the city has certainly changed. We now only update the CDP every few years, and the MPUs have played less and less of a role in its creation or in its implementation. One of my fellow members of NPU-F is known to say the MPUs have become neighborhood reactionary units because their attention has been shifted to commenting on applications that have already been received for permits and licenses, rather than being granted the time, resources, and authority to actually shape the future of their own neighborhoods. They're caught having to play catch-up to the unwanted changes that are happening around them, rather than being equipped to help drive the changes they want to see happen and that Atlanta needs to see happen as we deal with issues from the global pandemic, economic uncertainty, continuing racism and injustice, and unprecedented levels of development. None of us know exactly what's in store for our city for the next 5 years, but the only way we can have a shot at looking back 5 years from now and knowing that we've done everything we can to make Atlanta a more equitable city is to spend the time and energy that's necessary these next 12 months to ensure as many people as possible are given the access and encouragement they need to get involved in the CDP process. Thank you.
Hi, yes, my name is Sarah Korth, Korth, and I'm calling to leave a message to advocate on behalf of Agape Tennis Center. I've been in the Atlanta tennis community for over 20 years, and I've played at almost every facility in Atlanta. Played at Piedmont Park before it was Sharon Lester, and I just am calling to, explain why I believe Agape is the right choice to manage city facilities moving forward. My tennis team left the Sharon Lester Tennis Center, sadly, after having really bad experiences with UTA and I think a lot of people within the city, especially within my inner circle, had similar experiences, and we moved over to the CAB so we could play with Agape. I've since sent my children there, who are now becoming tennis players because their youth programs are so strong. All of the coaches that have come out of there have been really well developed and trained, and it's just becoming such a strong tennis community that I would love to see that spread more widely across the city. Anyways, I'd really ask the city to please consider putting forth Agape in as many facilities as possible throughout the city to continue to grow tennis in the city of Atlanta. Please feel free to call me back if you have any questions or want to hear more about my experience. My phone number is 404-668-2920. And again, my name is Sarah Korth. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Dina Van. I am a resident of the city of Atlanta. I've been a resident of the city of Atlanta for more than 20 years. I came back when the city was gentrifying and trying to get folks to come back. I love the city of Atlanta. One of the best things I love is the Piedmont Tennis Center and the fact that Atlanta is one of the cities in the country that have the best public courts. I am an avid tennis player. I've been playing tennis for more than half my life. I spent many days of my time at the Sharon Lester Tennis Center, which Sharon Lester was actually alive and was named after her. It was a home away from home. The warmth and welcoming that we received from the folks there has been unmatched. Unfortunately, that is not the case today with the current manager in place. I am a member of ALTA, USTA, T2, and League Tennis, and have been playing tennis in Atlanta for over 20 years. I would like for you guys to give Agape an opportunity to manage. I have worked with them at the DeKalb Tennis Center, which they manage now, and have been since they've taken over. Again, there's that warmth, the feeling like home away from home. It's always welcoming. They're always happy to help, assist, find you a team, find you a coach. Feel like the current management team has pushed all of us older people aside for younger USTA tennis. I guess it's more lucrative. We just want someone to share the space with us and know that we too are important. Again, I feel that Agape does that at DeKalb. There's room for all of us, for the ALTA, USTA, and the juniors. I hope that you guys will consider this call, these comments. Again, as someone who lives in the city of Atlanta, has lived in the city of Atlanta, and am happy to pay whatever taxes I need to make sure these tennis facilities are in great shape and have the best people possible running them, that is very welcoming and not treated like a country club. If I wanted to belong to a country club, I'd join one. I just think it's nice to have beautiful public courts that's inclusive of all. Again, good luck. I know you guys have a tough decision. Just as one woman who's involved with tennis and had the experience as someone who's had experience with both management companies, again, I would hope you guys would give Agape an opportunity. Thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Paul Brown, and I'm going to ask you to strongly consider honoring the commitment made to Agape Tennis. They're great. I've been involved with them now for about 6 months in DeKalb, and every interaction with them, from the quality of the coaching to the ease of use to the way they manage the tennis facility, is just first rate. I mean, 4 stars. So please, reconsider the decision that was made recently and help the city of Atlanta provide better tennis to its citizens and partner again with Agape. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Heather Flint. I'm active in our tennis community, as are my 2 teenage kids. Access to a dynamic tennis program with leagues, coaching, camps is very important to us. Atlanta Tennis needs a management company with the processes, the systems, the technology, and the imagination to make it all happen and to attract good coaching talent. In my experience, this is not the city's core competence or infrastructure focus. Our facilities need to reopen soon. It's urgent that people have these places and programs soon. Thank you for your time.
Hello, this is Rose, and I'm just calling in regards of Agape Tennis Academy. This call is just, I would like to see Agape Tennis Academy to manage the, all the facilities for Atlanta. They have been a great tennis academy for my kids, and I would like them to keep managing those parks because I really like them, and I feel that the people is also happy with them. I see their staff are very friendly, and they really work hard just to improve everything, and I am just really happy, especially with Coach Penny. She's doing such a great job, and I think they deserve to keep all those facilities. And I hope you consider my message and hope they get those facilities. Thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Justine, and I believe that Agape Tennis Academy is the right academy to manage all the centers of the city of Atlanta, and they have the right tools and professional coaches. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Scott Jones. The recent decision to staff our city tennis centers with city personnel is a mistake. This is simply not sustainable and will create a very untenable situation. Our tennis patrons are a very diverse group with very different demands. A professional tennis management company caters to these demands. They offer programming to address adult, junior, individual, and group instruction. They offer academy training for the dedicated, aspiring young players. They have a thorough knowledge of Alpha USTA league play and are very familiar with offering services for our local teams. They have expertise in conducting corporate outings at our centers. They offer special events such as social round robins, wheelchair tennis, and competitive tournament play. These are just a few of the services that the Atlanta tennis patrons have become accustomed to. It is simply not possible to offer our tax-paying tennis patrons these services without professional tennis management at our centers. So let's see if we can make that happen. Sincerely, Scott Jones.
Hello, this is Cindy Cooper, and I'm calling about Agape Tennis Academy. I would like, to give them as to manage the facilities for Atlanta. They are doing a great job, and I play there. My husband played there. My kids play there, and my friends play there too. We love the staff over there, and the way they're teaching, the way they manage, and we would like to keep them. So please, if you consider my petition, I highly recommend you to keep Agape Tennis Academy management because they're doing such a great job. I love them, and they're really looking ways for to help the community to get involved in more sports like teenagers, kids, and everybody. So thank you.
Hi, this is Martina
Anna Rosenbaum, and I was just calling because I wanted to, one, thank you for having the city run the tennis centers, but I wanted to see how quickly we could get a tennis management company in there. We're really super anxious and excited about having our teams come and play and getting our kids back out there on the courts. And I do feel like this is only possible with a tennis management company getting involved. I know that Agape Tennis Academy has previously won the contracts and something has gone haywire with those. But I do feel like it's very necessary that we get the tennis centers back under tennis management contract. And if Agape is the winner, let's get that rolling. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Hello, my name is Nellie Jackson, and I am an avid tennis player who 100% supports the Agape Tennis Organization. And I, as well as my tennis friends, feel it is vital that Agape be awarded the responsibility of managing the courts in and around the Atlanta area. I play all around the city of Atlanta, and I know Agape will do a responsible and dedicated job in ensuring that the fantastic management of these courts are just as beautiful as the Agape, what the Agape organization stands for. Agape is about instilling pride in our great city, building a diverse community, while restoring vibrancy of our remarkable tennis facilities in our great city of Atlanta. Please, please consider Agape as an organization that has Atlanta's best interests at heart. It has it in its mission, in its values, and it is vital that Agape be awarded the facilitation, the management of the courts in the city of Atlanta. I've passed Piedmont Park, and it is sad to see such a great facility in disarray. Nets are down, windscreens are down, so please consider Agape as in their best interest and their love for the city of Atlanta and how they will continue to build and drive tennis and just build and drive communities in this fantastic area. So again, my name is Nellie Jackson. I thank you for listening to my comments and my plea and my concern. Thank you. Bye.
Hey, my name is Nathan Pasha. I play tennis for the University of Georgia, and I'm actually currently still on tour now at about 125 in the world in doubles. And I feel pretty strongly about a professional company rather than the city running the city tennis centers, just because tennis is still about relationships, and tennis is a big small world. Everyone knows everyone, in the sense that it's really important to get good, well-connected, well-respected coaches at the tennis centers, in my opinion. I think it's very important to have someone with tennis background and someone that's more so kind of been through the system to help run the facilities. And I kind of feel like if the city just took it over, that maybe the staff would be a bit out of touch with the actual tennis world. And not only that, but I also grew up on Atlanta city courts, and I would love to see them run by tennis people that more so know what they're doing. So thank you. Appreciate it.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Catherine Hansen, and I am calling to share my input regarding the tennis programs here currently being run by the city. And I know it's been in discussion to award this over to Agape Tennis Academy. I have been playing tennis and doing tennis for over 25 years here in Atlanta. I've captained many teams. I've played on more teams than I've captained. And I play tennis. Obviously, it's a year-round sport here. But in addition, I've had 3 children come up through the tennis community. One received a full tennis scholarship. So needless to say, I am no stranger to the organized club tennis as well as the competitive tennis arena here in Atlanta. And I am adamant that it needs to be run by an organized group and not just left to the city to run. Tennis is not only huge in numbers, but it's also huge in revenue. There's the Alta League, the USTA League, the Flex Leagues, and now there's even the Challenge Ladder. So being able to get courts and being able to have it organized and being able to have good quality coaches is something that requires an experienced group to manage and improve upon. Needless to say, most importantly is the communities need tennis to be in full force, especially at a time like this when the city's a bit divided and needs to have that community spirit come back. And what better way but to get kids out for fun events. And I was able to partake in some over the past weekend that was hosted. And bottom line is just getting this into the hands of a professional company serves everybody well. So hopefully we will get your vote. Hopefully we will get your support. And we are all hoping to get back on the courts here in the city of Atlanta. Thank you so much. I appreciate all of your service and the time you took to listen to this message. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to give me a call, Catherine Hansen, 404-431-5359. Thanks again. Bye-bye.
Hi, my name is Joanne Biasmore. I live in a Morningside neighborhood right by Piedmont Park, and I'm calling concerning getting the Piedmont Park courts open and back up and running for the kids. The kids have no place to play tennis right now, and it's terrible. If you can get Agape in there to manage the courts so we can get drill groups and lessons going. There are a lot of kids that are training for scholarships and have no place to play right now. Or there's a local pro, Tori Martin, who has been getting all kinds of groups of kids together and getting into share courts and running groups and doing everything for those kids to keep them enthused and going. Let him go in there and just teach everything and get them going. But we need to get the courts open. It's just not right. And it's very hard to haul our children up to North Atlanta so they can play tennis up there. A lot of these kids have worked really, really hard, and now they're at the end and they're not even getting to practice. Not to mention the ones that aren't going to be playing in college but just need to get out after sitting at home, homeschooling all day during the COVID crisis. The courts are just sitting there empty all the time. It is just ridiculous. They're not open on Sunday when you could go out and chat with a parent if you have a parent who plays. I just would like to emphasize again the importance of please getting someone in there to run those courts and get these kids up and going again before it's too late. Thanks for your time.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Shaneen. I have been an avid tennis player in the city of Atlanta for about 3 decades now, initially as a single woman and now as a mother of 2. And I just wanted to express the need for extensive programming, both for myself and for my kids, anything from camps to group lessons. We really need the enrichment programs, especially for young tennis players, to just be in abundance. And we need the coaches to be very well trained, very capable. And also, for this modern age, we need to be able to manage a family full of tennis players online for enrollment and any other needs. Thank you so much. I'd like for this to happen ASAP. Let's get playing in tennis centers that provide all these things. Thank you.
Hello, this is Carol Phillips calling, and I would like to encourage you very strongly to have Agape Tennis Company take over the management of the Atlanta City Courts. I have been playing with this tennis company at the CAB courts, and I have to say they are outstanding. They create leagues, team programs, camps, events, hire and train coaches. They have a website. Everything is very simple and easy. The players, regardless of their level or age, really love them. They encourage everyone from little children who have never started tennis or have not yet started tennis to adults that haven't started, all the way to super talented kids and adults equally. They have wonderful coaches. It's a very inclusive program with people of all ages, economic backgrounds, ethnic backgrounds, and tennis abilities who are all out there enjoying being together and enjoying learning from this wonderful program. I have played with that same court system being under other management, and I must say this has been really a breath of fresh air, beautifully managed, and I think you would be great remiss if you don't give them very, very serious consideration. Thank you so much.
My name is Pam Zisman, Zisman, and I'm calling in support of Agape Tennis. I've been actively involved in the Atlanta and community area in tennis for over 20 years. I've been captain and co-captain for the USTA League, the Alpha League, and Flex Leagues. I feel that the City of Atlanta needs to support Agape Tennis. The City of Atlanta would not be the expert on tennis and understanding the needs of tennis as a community as it relates to hiring and training of coaches and pros, putting together programs, putting together websites and systems to help track tennis matches, round robins, fundraisers, etc. Atlanta needs a management company who understands to be able to create these leagues and these programs, who knows how to hire and, like I said, train coaches. That is so important to have an all-inclusive expert supporting the City of Atlanta, and it needs to be Agape Tennis. This is, again, not a huge job to be run by the city. Atlanta needs community strengthened through the game of tennis to help create involvement, promote diversity and inclusion. The current state of limbo and confusion is devastating to the community. Agape has a proven track record that speaks for itself. It is time to get people back on city courts playing and enjoying tennis. You need the expert behind the City of Atlanta, and that is Agape Tennis. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jacqueline Maldonado, and I'm a parent of 2 young tennis players currently at Agape. We had left Piedmont under old management because it did not provide the quality of instruction and operations management that we wanted. We found an amazing, inclusive, safe, and professional environment with Agape. They continuously run their youth programs safely with best practices in place. From leagues, lessons, and tournaments, Agape has become a one-stop shop. We've been waiting years for them to take over our city sites to share with everyone what we so fortunately found. Piedmont Park holds a special place for us, and it's a shame many coaches are currently out of work since we can no longer participate in instructional programming under the city. Many of our previous coaches are ready to work with the amazing staff at Agape. We just need the city to do the fair and right thing. Please help us get our children back on the courts with their talented instructors. It's one of the few safe activities they currently can do, and this never-ending circus is only punishing your citizens. Please do the right thing, Atlanta. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Nicholas Gapko, and I'm a tennis player. I'm not a professional or anything, but I play tennis 3 or 4, sometimes 5 times a week in Atlanta. I've been playing here for many years, probably 10, 15 years. And I wanted to just mention that when I go over to play tennis at the Cab Tennis Center, I work with Agape Tennis Center, the professional organization there. What I've noticed in the past, let's say 2 years or so, my level of tennis has gone up, and I feel like it's due in large part to what they've been able to bring to the community. I also hear kids playing, I hear kids laughing, I hear really young kids getting involved with tennis. There are people out there having fun, there are people out there playing really serious. There are leagues going on, and it's all done very safely, but I think that it's important that the private companies like the Cab, I don't know other ones because I just work beneath the Cab Tennis Center, but I think they really bring something to the community that it can't be done by the government. And I feel like they vet their coaches very well. They bring them from all over the country, from other countries sometimes. They're dynamic and engaging coaches. I've learned so many things in the past year or two. And I feel like my tennis level has gone up high because I'm hearing advice and hearing skills from these coaches that I never heard before. So I just want to let you guys know that from my perspective, it's really important that we get out there and play and get even the young kids involved and get everyone happy and having fun on the courts again. So anyways, I hope this message can get heard. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Gina Livingston, and I'm calling to urge this committee to bring back the legislation regarding the tennis center contracts in Atlanta. It's fall time here in Atlanta, and it is really time to play tennis. I'm a captain of my team's Alta team, and it has really hurt that the city of Atlanta facilities have not been open. There are so many teams who cannot play. There aren't enough spaces to play. And so having the center closed without programming and then having the city run it without the ability to quickly implement programming is really detrimental to the tennis community here in our city. So we're hoping that you will bring back the legislation for Agape quickly and get that passed so we can all get back to doing what we love, which is playing tennis in the best tennis city to play in the whole world. Thank you guys for listening to my comments. Appreciate it. Bye.
Good afternoon, Atlanta City Council members. My name is Heidi Grenda. I hope you're well. And I'm an active Alta and USTA tennis player in the Atlanta area. And I just wanted to call to make comments. I feel very passionate about Atlanta's tennis community. It's vibrant, it's diverse, it's something positive, and especially during the time of COVID, it's one of the safest sports. A lot of kids are doing online learning and they aren't getting their exercise. How great would it be if all of the centers were up and running, full programming, camps, teams, all of the things. And I know you're considering doing that in-house, but a management company has all of the technology, they have all of the knowledge, they know how to recruit, train, and hire the staff. It would be sad to see these places underutilized. Weather's gorgeous now, and COVID's going to be here for a while, and I think Atlanta really needs this. The children of Atlanta need it, the adults, and it would be great if you would just consider, please, letting a management company create the leagues, the teams, the camps, the events, and just the website, the technology, everything. It would just be a gift to the community. And maybe at another time, consider transferring over. But right now, they need this quickly. We need it now. And it would just be a godsend and an amazing blessing for most people. Thank you so much. Bye.
Yes, this is Ron Holland. I'm calling on behalf of the Gap Tennis Center, and I believe Atlanta needs a management company like a Gap, one that understands how to create all of the tennis leagues, games, programs, camps, events, etc. Also a company who knows how to hire and train the coaches, has all the systems, website, and technology to make this successful. And this is not the city of Atlanta. This is a private management group, and it's a very powerful and organized organization. And I'd like for you to vote for a Gap and make them a managing company for a long time to come. Thank you very much. Have a good day. Huh? What is it?
Did you leave your phone number?
No, you're not supposed to. You need to just leave me.
Hi there. My name is Joy Pelias, and I wanted to make some comments for the meeting being held on tomorrow, Tuesday, September 29th. I have spent many years playing tennis. I played Alta, I played USTA, I played Flex Leagues. I have sat on the committee for our community in terms of our tennis programs that are offered within the subdivision. I have served as team captain, both for adult and for kids teams. So I have a pretty good understanding of what's needed. And tennis management in any way, shape, or form, it's really a full-time job, and it requires professionals who know how to train their coaches and have the organization to be able to support a website and technology. What we're finding lacking for the city program is really they need a management company who understands tennis like that and makes it a part of the community, that creates programs and encourages teams and has camps and sets up leagues and events and things like that. Tennis is way too important for the community, and you need a professional company to manage that. So I appreciate the opportunity of being able to make a few comments. I think that basically right now it being in the hands of the Park and Rec community adds a lot of confusion. So if you would reconsider Agape, they have all of those credentials. They have a very passionate leader at the helm of Agape. They have a proven track history, and I think would be very, very beneficial. The city would definitely, and the community would benefit from it. So I thank you for allowing me to make comments, and thank you.
Hello, my name is Jacob Pugh. I grew up playing tennis and training in the city of Atlanta. I did for 4 years at Middle Tennessee State University. During college, I worked coaching junior tennis over the summers. I believe that the city operating the courts would not be best for the city of Atlanta players, and that a professional company like Agape should be put in place. A company like this knows how to best manage the courts, such as leagues, teams, lessons, summer camps, and social events. It's also important to have someone who knows how to hire and properly train coaches so the players get the most out of the time on the courts. I hope a company is put in place soon to manage the courts so that many tennis players in Atlanta can begin to take full advantage of these courts again. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jan Smith. I am a resident of Carla Smith's district, and I can say that she's really well loved in our neighborhood, Ormond Park, and does a great job. So I hope some of these messages will get her attention. But it's come to my understanding that there's going to be a council meeting tomorrow in regards to the management of Atlanta's tennis centers. And I did have some comments on that. It sounds like Atlanta, the city of Atlanta, is considering doing management of the facilities themselves. I am unaware of what the motivation might be behind that. I guess it has to do with financials, but it seems a little bit. It seems difficult to me that the city. I'm so sorry. That the city wants to manage that program when there are so many qualified, or at least a number of qualified companies on the table, people who have resources lined up, who know how to put together leagues, who have managed tennis centers before, have full staff and coaches on hand to implement this and get it set up remarkably fast. I think Atlanta needs a tennis outlet all over the city, in areas where it hasn't seen any community involvement before. I think the city of Atlanta would waste a lot of time trying to implement something like this and get it up and running. And it's already there. And I think time is of the essence. I think kids in all different neighborhoods around Atlanta need this resource and to feel part of the tennis community, which is extremely empowering for children and, people of all walks and minorities. And anyway, my comment is that it's already there. It's already on the table. Why waste time? I think it just should be up and running as soon as possible. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Michelle Clement. I am a resident of Atlanta, specifically Milton. I am calling because I feel very strongly about the city operating the tennis centers in Atlanta.
I believe that the city needs a professional company to manage it, and that's based on my personal experience and involvement in the tennis community here in Atlanta for the past 6 years. I have been on multiple teams at low to now very high levels. I've been a captain and still am. I've played ALTA, USTA, league tennis, ultimate tennis, and T2 tennis. So I'm very active in the tennis community. And what's so exciting about Atlanta is that we have the largest tennis community in the United States of recreational tennis. And that's such a great thing for us and is really a key point in marketing our city to those who are considering it to relocate. That was one of the reasons that we moved here from Richmond 7 years ago, was because of the major tennis influence in the city. So just to underscore my point for making this call, leaving this message, we need a management company who understands how to create leagues, create teams, programs. We need constructive athletic options and activities for our youth in the city of Atlanta. We need those events that draw people for positive and constructive interaction with one another. And we need a professional company to do this sort of program management. And Agape is the company that can do that. And I know Amy personally. I know the Agape program. I learned to play tennis from them about 5 years ago. And it's just a huge job. And someone who is a professional tennis coach and program manager who has an education and a background is really, thank you so much for allowing me to leave my thoughts on this community line.
My name is Mark Rosenbaum. I'm a resident of the city of Atlanta and an active tennis player, and I would like to encourage the council to address the tennis management contract to try to get some tennis management placed in the Atlanta Tennis Centers. Thank you.
All right. That concludes our public comment for the afternoon. Thank you to the folks who reached out with their thoughts. We have been joined at the very beginning of public comment by Council members Michael Julian Bond and Council President Felicia Moore. We will now move on to the next phase of our agenda, which will be presentations and reports. Leading us off will be the Interim Commissioner of Parks and Recreation, LaShondra Butler-Brooks, who will deliver that department's quarterly update.
Good afternoon, Chair Westmoreland and members of the CDHS committee. Again, LaShondra Brooks, Interim Commissioner, Department of Parks and Recreation, and certainly want to say thank you for this opportunity for the department to present its quarterly update. Next slide, please. So for the most part today, we will look at our DPR operations during COVID-19. And this slide here particularly speaks to just kind of what we have been doing to support our staff around safety. The DPR team has not stopped since the pandemic. This team has been working hard every day to make sure that our parks and rec and all of our facilities are accessible to the public and serving the public. So we have provided PPE weekly to our staff. For our recreation centers, our tennis centers, and our golf courses, we have provided disinfectant sprayers, social distancing signs, floor stickers, and contactless thermometers. And at our tennis centers, we have had to do an extensive amount of cleaning since August 11th. For our employees, we have had a total of 21 positive cases, and 20 of those 21 employees have returned back to work. Next slide, please. This slide looks at our Office of Parks. As you may know, during this pandemic, we have seen a significant increase in the use of our green spaces, parks, and green trails. Our parks team has been maintaining a 10-day mowing schedule and 7-day garbage and litter pickup, despite the increase in garbage and litter from the increase in the usage of our parks. Our forestry division continues to provide critical and urgent tree removal services. And I can tell you that during the last storm, we had a total of 50 trees down in the right-of-ways. And at the bottom of the screen is actually just a screenshot of what's on our website. A lot of times people wonder what our mowing schedule is, and this is just a screenshot of the Southwest Atlanta mowing schedule but you can find this on our website for our over 400 plus parks. Next slide, please. And we still have some amenities that are closed, even though it may not look like it when you're driving around. Our playgrounds are still closed. Our basketball and volleyball courts are still closed. Our athletic fields are closed, as well as our pavilions, just as a reminder. Next slide, please. From a meal perspective, we have been working at our recreation centers to provide youth meals on the go. From April of 2020 to August of 2020, we have provided over 70,000 breakfast and lunch meals and over 44,000 hot dinner meals. And now that school is back in, we are currently providing hot dinner meals on the go from 4 to 6 p.m. at recreation centers. We have also been working in partnership with the Mayor's Office of Constituent Services around groceries and meals being delivered to our seniors who are in need. To date, since April, we have delivered 181,000 meals to seniors, and we have close to 1,800 seniors participating in this program. And the vendors that we are using for this delivery service is the Atlanta Community Food Bank, Common Market, Gooder Inc., and Meals on Wheels. Next slide, please. Continuing to look at our operations for golf, aquatics, and tennis. Our golf courses are open for limited play, and you see the 4 golf courses listed. We have had right at 42,197 golf rounds since June the 15th. Reservations are required for added safety for our staff and the customers as well. The same goes for our indoor aquatic centers, where we have open lap swimming by appointment only at the 4 natatoriums listed below. And for tennis, we are open for a single match play only during this particular phase of the city's reopening plan. We can only do single match play, and we are also started the Alta League tournaments, and we are working with USTA leagues on their winter tournaments and making sure that we are following all of the CDC safety guidelines. Next slide, please. This slide looks at our virtual summer camp. Summertime may have looked very different this year without our normal Camp Best Friends in person, but I can tell you that the enthusiasm and the energy was still there. We had several thousand people who joined our team every morning for over 7 weeks to kickstart their day on Facebook Live, which started at 9 o'clock each morning. It's called Camp Best Friends Live. And you can see just some of the screenshots there of our staff participating and putting on Camp Best Friends Live. After that, we did transition to a Zoom platform, which included fun activities with reading, language arts, math, physical fitness, foreign language to include Mandarin Chinese, and all of these activities were staff-led. Next slide, please. Our teen program, normally in the summers, we would have a robust summer teen program specifically around jobs for our teens who participate in our teen program during the school year. This year, while we weren't able to do it how we normally do it, This year, we were able to partner with the Atlanta WorkSource program, where we had 23 teams who participated in a summer of soft skills training, work experience, healthy lifestyles, music and film production, and also received courses from the Scholarship Academy. And the youth were paid for this particular program. Next slide, please. So as of yesterday, we stepped off into something new. We have opened small learning communities and pods at our recreation centers with a proctor of 1 to 5 student ratio. And in doing so, we are partnering with the Atlanta Police Foundation's School on the Move initiative to help provide certified tutors for our small learning communities and small pods. The New York Times recently had an article that said the latest in school segregation, private pandemic pods. And the article actually talked about how families who have a means will return to school academically ahead because they are able to pay for their children to participate in small learning pods while they are working, or even if it's grandparents raising grandchildren as well. And while many of our low-income youth will struggle this upcoming school year once we get back face-to-face. So we worked very hard to put a lot of safety measures in place, working with a lot of the families who we have been working with over the summer and this past school year, as well as families who have reached out in need over the last few weeks. And with this, we're partnering with Atlanta Public Schools to provide breakfast and lunch. We do have some distance learning devices to help kids who need them, and we are following very, very strict CDC guidelines. Next slide, please. Our capital improvements, just to give you a few updates. Throughout this pandemic, the Office of Park Design continued work on several of our major projects, but this kind of outlines 2 of them. The first one is the Westside Park. Phase 1 of Westside Park is substantially complete. Phase 1B is expected to be complete in the spring of 2021. This particular park will add 200 acres to our park space, and some of the amenities include grand lawn, grand overlook, pedestrian and bike trails, playgrounds, restrooms, and much, much more. Our second large project that I wanted to speak to is Cook Park, which is nearing completion this coming winter. And this will add 13 acres of green space to our park system. And the amenities for this particular project include a splash pad, playground, detention pond, restrooms, climbing boulder, basketball court, exercise equipment.
These numbers that are dropping. And
next slide, please.
If 1 second, council members could mute their phones, that'd be great. Thanks.
Okay. I'm hoping we're on the slide where the top of it says Comprehensive Master Plan 12 virtual meetings. Many of you know that we launched our comprehensive master planning effort this year, and a big part of the summer included reaching out to Atlanta's residents, from mailing out over 1,800 statistically valid surveys to hosting over 12 virtual meetings, including 2 of them in Spanish. We got great feedback from the residents of Atlanta. Next slide, please. So based on the feedback that we got, we think our numbers turned out well, and our team continues to analyze all of the information gathered as we gear up for the next steps this fall. We will be reaching out to our technical advisory committee to get additional feedback, and the goal is to have our our master plan complete by next spring. And as you can see from our 12 virtual meetings, we had over 717 virtual public meeting attendees. It was an exciting 12 meetings. Next slide, please. So in the meantime, as we continue to gather input and go towards making sure that our master plan is complete, we have encouraged residents to download a new app that we have called Happy Feet. HAPPIFEET, and it can be found on your phones in your Play Store, in your app. And this will allow a customer to provide real-time feedback. So if you're in a park and you see something that needs to be repaired or fixed, you can take a picture of it and send it right over to us on the Happy Feet app. And we also encourage you to visit our website, which is activate-atl.com, where we also keep a newsletter also on that particular website. Next slide, please. So on this particular slide, this one is a very interesting one that came out of our results from Activate ATL. And it actually is reiterating what we have experienced firsthand these past several months, where you can see that 55% of those polled stated just how much more important they have found our city's parks, trails, and recreation centers to be during this pandemic. We remain committed to serving Atlanta residents as they depend on us to provide many essential services. And of course, just before I take questions, I have to take a moment to thank a team of people. While I can't thank everybody in the entire department, I want to give a special thanks to Doug Ross and the Parks team, his leadership in there. For our Parks design team, the leadership of Alvin Dotson and Keith Hicks. From the recreation side, Ramondo Davison has been extremely helpful in getting our centers prepared for our small learning pod. For tennis, in this temporary space, I have to thank Charles Brown, our programming team, led by Tiffany Bryant, our Director of Administration, led by Preeti Shaw. We're committed to keeping over 400 parks, trails, green spaces safe, clean, and maintained. As we know, these are places of reprieve and togetherness. We are committed to ensuring our youth, seniors, and families receive meals, access to virtual programming, and support for our students in this different world. And we're committed to being there as Atlantans return to activities they love as safely as we can as possible, from golf to swimming to tennis. And with that, I will take any questions that you all may have, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Colleagues, I do not see anyone signed up yet. If you do have any questions or comments, please go ahead and hop in line, and you have done so. We'll start with Councilmember Carla Smith, followed by Michael Julian Bond.
Hey, Commissioner Burks. First, I heard you thank some of your staff, but I want to thank you because I want everyone to know that I invited you to a neighborhood meeting. We were having some issues with the tennis court, and you were just absolutely wonderful. And y'all, I think she's continuing to meet with them. So I only have one question. I want to know about this Happy Feet app. What kind of things can people turn in on the Happy Feet app? And is that our app, or is that like a nationwide app, or what's the deal with the Happy Feet app?
So yes, thanks for the question, and thank you, Councilmember Carla Smith. It's been an exciting time to work with the residents in that community regarding tennis courts versus pickleball courts.
Exciting was a nice word. Thank you.
Your question regarding the Happy Feet app, it is a national app, but once you go on it, you can select the cities who are participating. So it will guide. You can choose Atlanta as a city, and that has our parks populated in it. So if you're out in a park and you see something, instead of, you can, it's also reported we make sure it's circled back in 311's queue as well. But instead of a resident having to call 311, they can use the Happy Feet app, which comes to our customer service division.
Okay, so if someone uses it, does it have some kind of follow-up to say, oh, we found your, whatever, the down tree in the park, and we're going to clean it up?
We can respond to it, yes.
Okay, all right. Well, thanks for joining the Happy Feet app.
No, thank you.
I'm done, Chairman.
Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Bond.
Friend, our great friend, John Lewis. But I can't do it without you. Please go to the polls and vote now.
Hey, Mr. Bond?
Congressman Lewis would want all of us participating.
All right.
He's doing the same thing I did yesterday, y'all. He's working on something else. He just forgot to mute his phone.
All right. So I'll come back to Mr. Bond in a second. I have a couple questions, Commissioner. I've received a couple messages, I assume other people have too, asking about playgrounds and athletic fields. I know we're in phase 2 as a city. When do those open back up? Like at what phase do playgrounds and or athletic fields come back online?
Mm-hmm. So we are working, thank you, Councilmember Westmoreland, for that question. We are working closely with the pandemic team on all of our amenities. As it stands right now, the playgrounds and the athletic fields will probably be in phases 4 or 5, and maybe gradually in phase 4 and into phase 5. But we will make sure that as phases are announced by the administration with the city's reopening, that we will at least update our particular website and social media posts around what parks and recreation amenities are opening during that particular phase.
Okay. And then on the slide about tennis, some folks I know we allow single match play right now. Do you know off the top of your head at which phase doubles comes back into play? No pun intended.
Doubles come back into play in phase 3. Okay. So as soon as we hit phase 3, we will be able to do doubles. I know that is a big interest of many, but I am happy to report that we have had quite a few people who have been playing during single match play. As a matter of fact, just for the month of September, we had 532 reservations across the tennis centers for single match play.
Okay. And then my last question, also on slide 6, the hours of operation, the Saturday from 9 to 1 and then being closed on Sundays, how did we develop that schedule? And has there been any thought to opening up later on Saturday or opening up all on Sunday and then closing on a weekday where traffic or attendance might be down more?
Well, interestingly enough, we used the schedule where we had staffing availability, and this was also the schedule that was used by the previous management company when they reopened during the pandemic.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. This is the same schedule, just during the pandemic, especially with single match play only. And so we have really stretched our staff. As a matter of fact, we have pulled even a few administrative people who were teleworking, we have pulled them and placed them into tennis centers as well. And with the learning pods opening this week, some we've had to pull back on, but we do not intend on pulling back on the hours of the tennis centers. We're going to push ourselves and make it work. And if we find that we can do Sundays, because that is probably the most requested time where we have been getting questions, we will certainly do so. But we have been able to adjust the schedules on Sundays for Alta League tournaments with some of our staff, and so we will continue to look to see what Sundays can look like.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Shepherd.
Sir, I just want to ask, I've gotten a call from one particular community, Dare Park, where they are just this one couple of people that live right in front, and they're just upset because they say, well, we see kids out here running in the park with no masks on and all of that, and why is the city not shut them down and all of that? And again, I just want to make sure that in terms of clarity that, you know, we're not sending anybody in to shut any parks down. And I think what you said to me, if I've asked you once before, is that, I know even though the city is closed down, parks are like an open space, and that, you know, we're not regulating anything for people to go in and just push people out of parks. Is that correct?
Yes, Councilmember Shepherd, thanks for that. You are absolutely correct. It's, you know, I'm sure what you're seeing in Adair Park, our team will testify that we're seeing it across the city. from Little League teams who have taken over our fields, but we don't have any Little League teams going forward. We have put out, oh my goodness, maybe 1,000 or so signs, and we can put them out one day, and 2 days later they're kind of gone. So no, we are not like pushing people out of the park. We have still continued to ask people to call 311, and that team has been very good of kind of getting some data points to APD as well, but you won't see, APD coming in to just push people out of parks as well.
I just want to make sure that's clear, and I've told my residents that some of them are pushing back, but I just want to make sure. And I think for me personally, I just think that, the parks, and even in terms of CDC guidelines, as long as you're social distancing, that's fine and it's open. But again, we can't control if you got families there and folks who are doing stuff. And I'm not sure how good of a look it would be for us to just come in there and just push people out of the park. So anyway, I just wanted to make sure I heard you correctly. Thank you.
Yes, you did. No, thank you.
That's all I have, Mr. Westmoreland.
Oh, I'm sorry. I had myself muted. Thank you, Ms. Shepard. Mr. Bond.
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me? Am I unmuted?
You are unmuted.
Thank you, thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Madam Commissioner. I want to compliment you on the food program and the way that you all responded. I know that early on as we were getting into this, I had some concerns about the quality of the vendors, and you all have addressed that, just gone beyond expectations. And I personally want to compliment you on doing that. The need out here in the community is so great, and you all have really gone overboard in addressing the pressing needs of our citizens, particularly those, of course, of school age that can't get access to meals. So first, I want to just really go out of my way to compliment you on that. And then secondly, I'd like to ask, with the success that you've had virtually with Camp Best Friends, and you see, it seems that you all have gotten actually probably more children involved. Is that something that you might consider an aspect keeping going forward into the future? To see if having virtual camps as we get beyond the pandemic.
So thank you, Councilmember Bond. First, I want to thank you for the feedback that was provided regarding the vendor quality of food and allowing us that opportunity to address that. And I'm glad to hear. I think we have seen a change as well, and we're getting better feedback, and glad to hear that has traveled up to you all as council members as well. So thank you for that. Around virtual Camp Best Friends, that is definitely something we are going to look into. I think the staff truly enjoyed it as well, even though we missed having the little ones in the building. The staff really did enjoy and engaging with them via Zoom and Facebook Live. So that is something that we'll look at. We are also looking and have started recording some sessions for after school, virtual after school. And I'm not sure if you were on when we talked earlier about opening the small learning pods at our recreation centers, where we have youth coming in with certified teachers who are really working with our children in a 1-to-5 ratio, sometimes even less than that, depending on where the students are, making sure that they are enrolled in school, participating with their teachers on a daily basis, and getting them caught up in many instances, especially in reading and math. And so with that, we're focusing on the pods right now in hopes of also transitioning to a virtual after-school program.
I heard that part. It was, and I'm very excited about the progress that you have outlined. But like Ms. Shepard, still a little concerned about people gathering in the parks, because though our numbers on COVID are improving, we're still not where we would all like to be. But again, like Ms. Shepherd, I don't know what we can actually really do about it. I mean, the most I think anybody could do if you had a policeman go through the park is just get on the loudspeaker and have him say socially distanced. But of course, as soon as they drive away, people just kind of go back to doing what they were doing anyway. But I just want to compliment you on your presentation and in the way that you all have been sensitive in addressing these issues going forward. And I will say I have seen people, and I'm one of them, who personally taken advantage of the opportunities at the natatoriums. And I see more and more people as I go, but the numbers are still, I guess, they're relatively low compared to obviously what they were. But I do see citizens coming out to make use of the slots and opportunities that are there. So that's been very good. So just want to compliment you, and Mr. Chair, that's all I have for now.
Thank you very much. Back to Ms. Shepherd.
I'd just like to ask if you all could reach out to my office and we can go back over the ATL surveys that you all have been doing. I just want to look at to see how it's impacted my district and my neighborhood in terms of a breakdown. Can you help me with that, or can you call me and we can just talk about all of the ATL comprehensive master plan in terms of the things that you all are doing, if you don't mind? Thank you.
Sure, Councilmember Shepherd, we will be certain to do that. The next phase of our engagement actually includes that of council members kind of providing an overview, because you participated on one of them, so you may remember that our virtual meetings were by quadrants of the city, even though we touched the entire city, but we tried to focus on specific quadrants. And what we wanted to do was present that information to council members based on those quadrants and get additional feedback as a council member. So you will be hearing from us regarding the master plan, and specifically your area. We'll be able to speak with you about all of the surveys that we received back.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. That concludes our speaker list. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the entire committee for this opportunity.
Next up, we will have Commissioner Tim Keene, who is going to launch the first of many conversations that will take place over the next 12 months about the 2021 Comprehensive Development Plan. Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and council members, for giving me a few minutes to talk about the start of our update to the city's comprehensive plan. I do have some slides here. I'm expecting Julia sharing those with you. We can go to the first content slide, Julia, if you'd like, which is entitled, What is the Comprehensive Development Plan? This will be a process that is new to some council members. This presentation will probably make it sound like a very tedious process, but it's actually very important and an opportunity for the city at a growing time in our history. I'll use this first content slide actually to serve for the first two slides, since the content is very similar. The Comprehensive Development Plan, as you know, is an important guide for the city's growth and development, and you see it all the time in the cases that are brought before council relative to the zoning of property throughout the city. The comprehensive plan is referenced when anyone is proposing new development, and especially when you're proposing rezoning or any kind of zoning action on a property, it is to be consistent with the comprehensive development plan. This is a requirement that comes from the state in order to have zoning. The Georgia State Department of Community Affairs administers this planning process throughout Georgia, and locally our regional commission does the regional plan, of course, and then we submit our individual, all of us municipalities and counties submit our comprehensive development plan updates to the ARC for approval every 5 years. The plan that will start now in October is due 12 months from now, so in October of 21. It is a chance for the city to, as we're looking at how the city's growing and changing, it's an opportunity for us to set priorities around investments and things like streets and other infrastructure. It involves a lot of analysis, which we've already started working on, and public involvement and conversation, which I'll get to later in these slides. And then per the City of Atlanta Charter, Atlanta City Design sets a framework for updating the CDP now in Atlanta. Julie, I'll skip the next slide because it's very much the same content, and just go to a slide after that, which is just the cover of Atlanta City Design. And just as a reminder to council members, this is a design for the entire city, so a design at the city scale, conceptual design that includes, you go to the next slide, Julie, if you can, the 5 principles within Atlanta City Design around which the design is organized, and within each, equity, progress, ambition, access, and nature, we have a whole series of recommendations around specific actions that the city could take in furtherance of each of those principles. And the comprehensive development plan will be an opportunity for us to operationalize city design and its principles into the, really kind of bring the comprehensive development plan and Atlanta City Design into alignment. Next slide has a couple of maps, just another reference to Atlanta City Design, which the physical framework of Atlanta is broken down into growth areas on the left here in the kind of yellow or gold color, which includes the core of the city, downtown and midtown, and areas around downtown and midtown, as well as corridors of our busier corridors that come out from the city. And then on the right, conservation areas, which are mostly neighborhoods, some of which are more urban. Of course, in Atlanta's case, you have suburban neighborhoods, and then even some that are characterized as rural, large lots and streets without sidewalks and things like this. So this will be the physical identification or characterization of Atlanta upon which we'll do our updating of the CDP, and there'll be a lot of work around that, around an alignment between Atlanta City Design and the comprehensive development plan. That's really important in this case, and I'll go to the next slide to reference that in terms of the required aspects or elements of the CDP, which includes, of course, as I said, our goals or the principles that we're operating under, the opportunities that Atlanta has that are most pressing today, the community work program, which is really just around what are our priorities over the next 5 years in terms of what we do, a chance for us to bring greater attention to capital improvements and use this update to get much more specific in terms of capital improvements as they relate to the growth of the city, economic development, land use, and what I was going to say a moment ago as we were looking at those city design maps is we're going to have a significant effort around aligning the land use aspects of the comprehensive development plan and the recommendations of city design around these growth areas and conservation areas. That will be a huge endeavor and is overdue, honestly, because comprehensive plans probably often in most cities start off with kind of a core idea that drives them, and then over a period of years and updates, that can get diluted and kind of lost in the updating that goes on. This is a chance for us to kind of reset on the land use within the comprehensive development plan. The relationship of that to transportation, which of course we have a relatively new transportation plan after we finish the Atlanta City Design, and that will be incorporated into the discussions in the CDP as well. housing, which we've been doing a tremendous amount of work on, as you know, the mayor's housing plan. We've got some work coming out soon related to the physical aspects of housing and how we as a city can enable a greater diversity and affordability of housing in Atlanta. And then they added this year to the CDP process this specific element around broadband access and issues related to disparity of access to broadband in cities. So that will be something we'll be discussing quite a bit this year, more than previous years, because it's something that the state and the region has elevated as an issue. Of course, among the topics that will be in much discussion during this public process will be the effects of the global pandemic, and in particular those aspects of things that will change the city potentially for longer periods of time, and maybe in some cases forever. The economic uncertainty around where the city and cities are right now in response to the pandemic, the issues that this global condition has unearthed, and what it means in terms of the way in which businesses and access to businesses and access to jobs is changing as a result of this. Of course, racism and social injustice and how planning and zoning and land use has contributed to discriminatory practices and dividing people across race and class in cities, and what we can do about it. And then in Atlanta's case, dealing with the unprecedented development that we're happening, which, as you know from what I've told you over the last few months, has continued during COVID. We will be very much focused on, if you go to the next slide, Julia, again, operationalizing and embedding within the comprehensive development plan Atlanta city design and what we must do to achieve this beloved community. And some things to pull out about that, there'll be a real focus on the equity value within Atlanta city design, the relationship between what we're doing with the comprehensive plan and our zoning ordinance rewrite, which we will begin very soon as well, an opportunity to create more collaboration across departments. As you all know, the effectiveness of a city when it comes to any particular service that it provides has so much to do with the way the city is growing, and we need to strengthen those relationships across departments. As I said before, the relationship between land use and transportation, engaging the public in meaningful ways at a difficult time, although the condition of things and these virtual meetings gives us some opportunities perhaps to have even more people involved in this update. And last, incorporating the Department of City Planning's Planning for Change efforts, which have to do with, again, addressing planning and planning in general, but also planning in Atlanta and the planning department's role in using planning, land use, zoning, regulation, code enforcement, all those things in ways that discriminate against people and have historically and continue to, in addressing racism and classism and discriminatory practices in the comprehensive development plan and the work that we do, and finding ways to address those in the way that Atlantans would expect that we would do. The next slide is a timeline. As I said, we've already started on collecting information and getting ready to start the public process in October. As the chair pointed out, this is the beginning of the process that I'm kind of here today to go over with you. In October, we'll have a kickoff meeting and start public meetings in October, and that will run through to next summer, such that we can get the plan together and towards the adoption of the plan by our deadline about a year from now. And then the last couple slides relate to public involvement a couple of images from previous public meetings in the city, which were all about meetings and standing around tables together and pointing at maps and things like this. Obviously, our process, at least the beginning of it, for the foreseeable future, will not look like this at all. If you go to the next page, Julia, final slide, I think, regarding public engagement, and we will have a steering committee, public group led by our chair here of the CDHS committee, the stakeholder group, community leadership, to help us with ensuring we've got an interesting, satisfying process for the public and are reaching everyone in Atlanta that cares to participate in this. And then a technical advisory committee of staff, certainly city departments and other agencies that we work closely with. And then some of the techniques that will be used, of course, virtual meetings. We'll have a website devoted solely to the comprehensive plan update, upon which we can build social media, mobile tools, use of NPU meetings, of course, in a significant way, and NPU University. Meeting in a box, which is really just the provision that what we'll do to provide everything that anyone in the community needs to conduct a meeting on this topic all by themselves. We can find as many ways to get people involved in this as we possibly can. And the last slide just does note we have set up an email for the update in case you have questions or suggestions, CDP 2021 at atlantagA.gov. And with that, Mr. Chair, I'm happy to take questions on that or any aspect of that.
Good deal. Thank you very much for your presentation. Colleagues, any questions or comments? I will start us off with a couple. Back on slide 7, the required elements. I noticed at the bottom it mentioned that the Community Works program and the capital improvement section are going to be prepared and adopted every year as opposed to just one time and then be static for 5 years. Is that new? And if so,
I'm sorry.
Kind of what
you're on you're on slide 7.
I am. Yeah.
Okay.
The Community Works program and the capital improvements.
Yeah, that is not new, Councilmember. That is not a new aspect of the way the state and the region are asking us to do the comprehensive plan. That has been part of the process for many years.
Okay. Good to know. If there are no questions or comments, I'll just end by saying I'm very much no, there are. All right, Ms. Shepard.
Commissioner, thank you for the presentation. As we look at slide number 10, your timeline.
Yes.
So we're saying that in October you will begin this kickoff, virtual kickoff. So how are you going to break that up? The city is so large, so how do you break that up in terms of virtual kickoff? Do you have any thoughts yet in terms of how you're going to do this? And I see you're going to have 6 virtual meetings and NPU meetings. So do you all have a specific plan about how that's going to happen?
We do have a specific plan, Councilmember, and it includes the virtual kickoff meeting is one big, kind of citywide virtual kickoff, but then we'll break down into the 6, then we have 6 kind of other topic-oriented and geography-oriented public meetings. And then we'll reach, every NPU will be part of this process, and we'll be presenting at every NPU meeting. So to your point, we'll get at the city scale, everyone kind of involved in virtual meetings, but then we'll get down to the NPU scale for meetings as well to make sure that we're trying to be sensitive to the different issues within each part of the city.
So I just want to also ask in terms of going down to the NPU scale, as we begin to evolve into my district is changing continuously in terms of people getting more entrenched. And I know that your department, you have folks who do NPU training, but I think it's important that we have the NPUs to understand the CDP. So that's why I'm trying to understand, even in terms of the virtual kickoff, this is citywide. Obviously, you are going to be doing more in terms of presenting as opposed to people asking questions. I can't imagine a virtual citywide kickoff and how many people are going to be there and how we do it virtual, with people giving input and asking Q&A. The same thing in terms of the 6 virtual meetings in terms of, are they going to be broke down by quadrants, or are they going to be broke down by, I'm just trying to figure out what that breakdown would be so that, as we're interacting, we can make sure that it's touching every neighborhood. One of the things, you and I have been walking around in my neighborhood for the last couple of months now and talking about a lot of things that are going in my neighborhood. And I'm now looking at this discussion we had in terms of the CDP could actually be a part of that conversation we've been having in terms of things that are happening in my district. And that could be actually a segue into some other discussions we're having. But I'm also still trying to understand in terms of, getting my community ready for that, how this is going to be broke down. So I just like to ask you a couple more questions. If you can't answer that today, I see you have coordinate and prepare a plan, but just I need to understand more specifically how that's going to be broke down so I can prepare my community for the beginning of this CDP plan.
Yeah, you got it. In terms of just on this timeline graphic here, of course, the blue aspects of this has to do with the kind of public process, and the green parts and the lower part of it are more about the kind of administration of the process. And we can give you a more detailed schedule, Councilmember Shepherd. We will definitely allow for more, smaller geographic areas to participate in meetings so that any specific issue within a smaller area can be raised within a virtual meeting. So there will be opportunity for just what you're describing, which is area-specific meetings so that individuals, if you're in the Adair Park, Pittsburgh area, for instance, you've got a chance to talk about issues just within your area. We will have that, and we can provide to you and all the council members a more detailed version of the schedule.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Councilmember Shepherd. If there are no other questions or comments, Mr. Bond.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Commissioner, for your presentation. I have a kind of follow-up to what issues Councilwoman Shepherd was raising. I think having the NPUs virtual has been great, particularly being in the citywide position and having to, in the past, pre-COVID, having to zip around town trying to make it to those that are meeting at the same time. I was able to attend 2 NPU meetings last night and sat in on what was a very long but very interesting NPU-M meeting where they were going over their bylaws. As we get beyond COVID, have you all looked at being able to, as we go back to in-person meetings, have a setup where the community might still be able to Zoom, or where the meeting is partially live and attended and partially online? Because it seems like there's a lot more participation, allowing people to get in, and that might be a cure for some of the low attendance of some of the NPUs
I think so, Councilmember Bond, and that has certainly been my experience over this period, that we have more involvement, greater diversity of people and larger groups of people being able to participate in the NPU meetings. With regard to, as we move out of COVID and have the opportunity to do in-person meetings again, those decisions about how the NPUs handle their meetings is really up to the NPUs. We will be providing the tools they need to, the ability they have now to do the virtual meetings is an ability that we provided to them so that they could meet during the pandemic. As we're coming out of it, it will be each NPU's decision as to how they use that virtual platform, as more conventional means of meeting are again available to them. So it's really kind of up to the NPUs. We don't tell them, how they need to meet. They have bylaws, as you mentioned, and they can decide. Now, hopefully, what we've learned during the pandemic and the use of virtual and the value of it, we'll get a lot more use of it. But that will be the NPUs to decide.
Yeah. I'd like for us, though, like you were saying, is to provide the option.
Oh, we will. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because even if it's Facebook Live or Zoom or whatever, if we can, make the appropriate changes to our code sections around meetings that would allow them to do it, I think it would be helpful because so many, and we've had the same experience, obviously, that so many other people are getting involved because pre-COVID, you could go to some NPUs and, it was, it looked like they were socially distancing because of the, prior to COVID-19. So I think if anything good can come out of the situation that we're in, I think this is one of the good things.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes, and yes, they will have those tools and they will have that ability to continue to use the virtual platform, Councilmember Bond, as we come out of this.
Okay. Great. Thank you, Commissioner.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I think that ends our line of questions. Thank you, Commissioner. Looking forward to the work over the year ahead.
Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody.
All right, colleagues, that ends our presentations for the meeting. We are going to now move into ordinances for second reading.
Item number 1, 20-01666, CDP-20-025, an ordinance by Community Development Human Services Committee to amend the land use element of the 2016 Atlanta Comprehensive Development Plan so as to redesignate property located at 11074 Ponce de Leon Avenue Northeast from the low-density residential 9 to 16 units per acre land use designation to the mixed-use low-density commercial land use designation and for other purposes, V-20-047, NPUF, Council District 6. And there's an amendment to correct a typo in the caption. The street number should be 1074.
I'll make the motion to amend. Is there a second?
Second, Brown.
Motion by Westmoreland, second by Brown to fix the typo.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
7 yeas, 0 nays. The item is amended. If there are no questions or comments, Mr. Faroki, do you want to make the motion? It's in District 6. Never mind. I will make a motion to adopt as amended.
Second, Brown.
Vote is open.
Ms. Archibald? Councilmember Archibald, are you there? All right. Why don't we mark her as away? and go ahead and close the vote.
One moment, please. Vote is closed.
Thank you. 6 yeas, 0 nays. That item is favorable as amended. Next item.
Next item is number 2, 20-0-1567, CDP-20-027, an ordinance by Community Development Human Services Committee to amend the land use element of the 2016 Atlanta Comprehensive Development Plan so as to redesignate property located at 365 Lyndhurst Drive Southwest from the single-family residential land use designation to the mixed-use high-density land use designation and for the purposes C-20-050 and PUI Council District 10.
I will make a motion to hold for the fourth quarter CDP public hearing. Is there a second?
Second, Brown.
Motion by Westmoreland, second by Brown.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
7 yeas, 0 nays. That item is held. Next item.
Item number 3, 20-0-1586, an ordinance by Community Development Human Services Committee amending the fiscal year 2021 intergovernmental grant fund budget by adding to anticipations and appropriations reimbursements in the amount of up to $950,000.00 from the state of Georgia in connection with the Bright from the Start Child and Adult Care Food Program for the purpose of reimbursing the City of Atlanta for its after-school meal program on behalf of the Department of Parks and Recreation, and authorizing the mayor or her designee on behalf of the City of Atlanta to enter into any necessary agreements in conjunction with the after-school meal program and for the purposes.
Any questions or comments for Ms. Butler-Burks? Okay. If not, I will make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second, Brown.
Motion by Westmoreland, second by Brown.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
7 yeas, 0 nays. That item is favorable. Next item.
Item number 4, 20-R4371, a resolution by Councilmember Natalie M. Archibald authorizing the mayor or her designee to enter into an agreement to extend the term of the memorandum of understanding between the city between the city and the Cabbagetown Initiative Community Development Corporation on behalf of the Department of Parks and Recreation for a period of 6 months through June 30th, 2021, and for the purposes.
Ms. Archibald.
Yes, thanks, colleagues. I recommend your supporting this legislation, as you can imagine, for well into 6 months of the last year of this agreement. The facility has not been open due to COVID-related considerations, and prior to that, there were remediation mold issues. And so this additional 6-month period would allow for there to be sufficient time to renegotiate another memorandum of agreement to allow for the community to get back in the facility to determine their next steps. So I make a motion.
Got a motion by Archibald to approve. Is there a second?
Second, Brown.
Second by Brown.
Vote is open.
Mr. Bond? There we go. That vote is closed. 7 yeas, 0 nays. The item is favorable. Next item.
Item number 5, 20-R-4374, a resolution by Councilmember Natalie M. Archibald requesting the Commissioner of the Department of City Planning to conduct a study of the feasibility of allowing all neighborhood planning units to continue allowing virtual meeting attendance upon the city resuming normal business operations and for the purposes.
Ms. Archibald?
Thank you, sir. Yes, and I think in alignment with the conversation that we had today. And so I urge the support of this resolution to determine the feasibility of continuing that virtual format after we move beyond this COVID-19. I've seen around 5 that there's better attendance because of the virtual space. So this is asking that the department
check it and give us their recommendation 60 days out from the adoption of this resolution. So my motion is to approve.
Motion by Archibong. Is there a second?
Second, Brown.
Second by Brown. Any questions or comments from the body or any comments from Commissioner Keene?
Mr. Chair, may I just say a few things?
Sure.
Yeah, I just want to, thank Councilmember Archibong, and in alignment with Councilmember Bond, that I believe this is the direction the city should be moving in. I think that it's important to ensure that we're creating every opportunity for residents to engage with the city, especially within our neighborhoods and our neighborhood planning units. So, kudos to Councilmember Archibong for putting this forward and also being inclusive to ensure that she hears from other council members and moving this legislation forward. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Mr. Archibong, I just want to say I think it's a great idea also. I think that always have some major things with COVID-19. COVID-19 is really pushing us to a level that's not going to be the same. The new norm will not be what the old norm was at all. And so this is truly an example of that, and that is really something that's a positive for the community for us to do that. And it's forced a lot of people in the community who would never even deal with the whole internet process of social media, Zoom. It's forced me and a lot of other folks to go to a whole other level. And it's really a good process. And so, Ms. Archibong, you are on point. Kudos to you.
But if I may speak to that, Mr. Chairman?
Absolutely.
I thank you both, and it means a lot coming from both of you because I know you're real close to the community and you always want to make sure there's a high level of engagement. And to the point that Ms. Shepherd just made, the 60-day study may come up with some recommendations around tools for making sure that we help those who are less secure in the electronic space or the social media space, that we help them and provide that way so that everybody can be as possible. So I'm excited about this, and so thank you for the support.
There you go. Commissioner Keene, any comments before we vote?
Well, I guess I should point out, and again, we got all of the NCUs up and running with use of technology to conduct these meetings during the COVID period, and have done outreach specifically to groups that we thought might struggle with getting access to virtual meetings to help them, learn how you can just call into Zoom meetings, for instance, and so there's been a lot of outreach. We completely agree with everything Councilmember Archibong is suggesting. The only thing I'll just point out is my point earlier that, just to be speaking to your NCUs about this, because it is their decision as to how they conduct their meetings. We don't decide that for them, but we will provide that report within the 60 days, and have already started working on it. Thank you.
Sounds great. We had a motion earlier by Archibong and a second by Brown. If we could open that vote.
Vote is open.
That vote is closed. 7 yeas, 0 nays. Item is favorable. Ms. Shepherd.
And I'm sorry, I just need to ask Commissioner King something. It's not related to Ms. Archibong's legislation. It's just, and I should have asked it when you were doing your presentation. Commissioner King, in reference to your department via COVID-19, I've had a couple of issues in terms of knowing if all your departments are open and are they actually out working via the community or out in terms of, for instance, building inspectors and things like that. And I've had a couple of scenarios that I will send you emails on showing where there were some issues in terms of two particular issues that building inspectors should probably do citations, but one of the reasons they said that they wasn't doing citations is because the city is not open. So as a result of that, they're not writing citations. But as a public safety chair, I know yesterday I had Chief Judge Portis at my public safety meeting. So other departments are still out working, interacting in terms of what they do as a city, in terms of employees. Even code enforcement is now beginning to get up and running again. And so what I'm having in my community is a lot of illegal build-out and, you know, things in terms of stop work orders and things that are not happening. But then when I'm
Councilmember, the planning department has never closed. The day that the day that the city closed, construction was deemed to be an essential business. We had no opportunity to close. What we had to do was shift all of our inspections to other means. So we are doing virtual inspections via video. We are doing third-party review of inspections. When it comes to code enforcement, we have a code enforcement lead that is issuing stop work orders all over the city, has never stopped doing that. Our arborists are continuing to do arborist inspections. Every aspect of what we do has never ended. Anyone that needs service from the planning department, the best place to send them, if they're able to, is to go to the City of Atlanta webpage and go to the Department of City Planning. And every service that we provide, we have instructions that we developed specifically for the COVID period for anything that you need. And a PDF that you can pull up or download, instructions on how to participate in meetings or call in an inspection or apply for a permit. There is no aspect of what the one thing I will say on code enforcement that continues to be a concern, of course, and this isn't anything new or a surprise, is that the courts have not been open. So when we issue a stop work order, we then do a correction notice that gives someone time to correct whatever they've done, whether they've been working without a permit or done something outside the boundaries of a permit. And if they don't adhere with that correction notice, they get a citation, which includes a court date. So that is the only aspect of the process that is, has been interrupted and still is interrupted. But everything else is we've gotten lists of code enforcement or sites to go see relative to permit activity happening without permits. We've gone to every site that we get. In many cases, we have issued stop work orders if they're necessary. So, Councilmember, please, if anyone needs any service, they can go to that website or you can direct them to me, and I will make sure they get the person that they need to address the issue that they have.
So, Commissioner King, I'm going to again say that even though you're saying that, maybe there's some miscommunication, because I was told by some folks in the department that they weren't. And so we don't have to get into this on the phone. What I'll do is send you the information. So I want to get clarity from you, because what I heard, the last thing I heard from you just specifically was the fact that you all should be issuing citations if folks don't comply. So that's what I heard from you. So I'll make sure that as I interact with you, I talk to you about the specifics around that. But thank you for your information.
Okay. All right. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Westmoreland.
Thank you, Ms. Shepard. Mr. Bond.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I apologize ahead to everyone, because this is a question I meant to ask when the Commissioner was making his presentation. Commissioner, it's really concerning the arborists, given the tragedy that happened a few weeks ago with the tree that came down on the home of the young law student. It's always been a persistent issue when you have an elderly or senior citizen person that has a tree that they feel very threatened by, but may not have the means to have that tree removed. I I'd like to ask you, and I'd like to work with you and any other member of council to see if we can work a solution to see if in part, perhaps from some of the fees or some general fund revenue can be set aside for grants to assist people in tree removal that may be threatening their property. Because, it seems like ever since I've been involved on city council, going back to the early 90s, there's always someone somewhere that has a tree that is leaning like it might fall, but of course, tree removal is expensive, and a lot of these folks don't have the means to have the tree removed. And so is that something we can work on and see if we can get something developed in that vein? Because we don't want to see, I'm a tree hugger from way back, but I don't want to see trees threatening or taking lives in these storms. And I believe as Ms. Burks pointed out in her presentation, they removed, I think, 50 trees from the streets that had fallen down all around the city. But of course, when it happens to someone's home and takes someone's life, whether they're in the home, and of course, there's been some tragedies where people have actually been in their cars. But on property, if some type of program or grant can be created to assist people in having threatening, or dead trees removed, I'd like to see something happen in that vein. What do you think about it?
I think that's good. I mean, we don't have arborists that remove trees. To your point, I mean, it's a great point. We issue permits for people to remove trees on their property. The tragedy that you referenced from a few weeks ago during the aftermath of the hurricane, that was a tree that no one had ever had spoken with us about, just because we're just issuing permits for people to remove trees. So if someone was trying to get the tree removed, that they would have been talking to someone else. So to address that issue, as you're saying, we can absolutely look at that. I think it's a great point.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Sure thing. Thank you both. We are now moving on to item number 6.
20R4375, resolution by Councilmember Carla Smith authorizing the mayor or her designee to enter into an intergovernmental agreement between the City of Atlanta and the Atlanta Development Authority doing business as Invest Atlanta for the purpose of further aligning its workforce development services provided by Workforce Atlanta and for the purposes.
Mrs. Smith, move to hold, and they're meeting with people now, so I hope all of y'all get a chance to meet with them.
Got a motion by Smith. Is there a second?
Second, Brown.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
7 yeas, 0 nays. That item is held till next cycle. Thank you. Next item.
Item number 7, 20-0-1599, an ordinance by Councilmember J.P. Matsakite authorizing the payment of $22,240.00 from the Chastain Amphitheater Park Improvement Trust Fund to the Atlanta Police Foundation for safety improvements on Chastain Memorial Park Drive and in Chastain Park and for the purposes. This item was referred to the Public Safety and Legal Administration Committee as well, and it came out of that committee with a favorable recommendation.
If there are no questions or comments, I will make a motion to approve.
Second, Brown.
Go ahead.
Motion by Westmoreland, second by Brown.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
7 yeas, 0 nays. That item is favorable. Next item.
Item number 8, 20-R-4315, a resolution by Councilmember Antonio Brown requesting that the Department of Parks and Recreation, City Planning Department, and the Department of Finance Revenue Division partner with the principals of the Atlanta Street Food Coalition to establish a comprehensive food truck program in the city of Atlanta and for other purposes. This item was referred to the Public Safety and Legal Administration Committee as well, and it was substituted and amended in that committee. And if I may read the substituted and amended caption, a resolution by Councilmember Antonio Brown as substituted and amended by Public Safety and Legal Administration Committee, declaring that following the submission of legislation for consideration by the Atlanta City Council, the Department of City Planning, pursuant to which Chapter 30, Article 23, Public Property Vending, shall be amended to provide for new ordinance to govern the regulation of food trucks operating on public property within the city of Atlanta, that there shall be written notice of proposed food truck legislation for review and comment to each neighborhood planning unit, declaring that thereafter a public hearing shall be conducted before the Public Safety and Legal Administration Committee, during which the Department of Parks and Recreation, the Department of City Planning, and the Department of Finance Office of Revenue, as well as outside stakeholders such as the Atlanta Street Food Coalition and the Fulton and DeKalb County Boards of Health shall be invited to present information which may inform the Atlanta City Council's consideration of the proposed amendments to the City of Atlanta's public property food truck ordinances and for other related purposes.
All right, colleagues, this comes to us from the Public Safety Legal Administration Committee. Yesterday, it's a resolution encouraging a citywide food truck program. It was amended in committee after a conversation around an upcoming ordinance that will be presented by the Planning Department. And so I believe, Councilmember Shepard, correct me if I'm wrong, this resolution encourages a conversation to happen, and once we receive an ordinance from the Planning Department, we will go out and have conversations with NPUs and a public hearing to make sure that all voices are part of that conversation, and then move forward with that legislation. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. We went through about an hour conversation yesterday, and I just literally asked Ms. Lindo to send a copy of the wordsmith, how we actually changed some of what we accepted yesterday to City Council. But yes, we changed it a little bit to basically say there was a recommendation for 3 meetings, and then we also had Commissioner King on to talk about it. And so Commissioner King basically had already said that they're working on actually a rollout of a food truck program. So the recommendations were basically to allow Commissioner King to give us 30 days for him to bring forth the legislation for a comprehensive food truck program in the city. And through that process, what we would do then is use that 30 days as a time. But once that comes in, we will then actually send it out to the NPU for a discussion as we go through it as a council. And then after that, we'll come back for a public hearing. So those are the recommendations, is that we'll wait 30 days until this resolution says we will wait on Commissioner King to come back with the recommendations from the ordinance. Once that happens, it would then go before the NPU. Then we'll come back to us for a public comment period, public meeting, and then we'll come back to us as a council for a vote. That's where we are.
All right. We're not going to talk about it for an hour, but Commissioner King or Mr. Brown, any other comments before we take a vote?
This is Councilmember Brown, Mr. Chair, and no, I motion to approve the legislation as amended.
Motion by Brown. Is there a second?
Second, Faroki.
Motion by Brown, second by Faroki. If there are no other questions or comments, please open that vote.
The vote is open.
7 yeas, 0 nays. That item is adopted. Next item.
Our next item is number 13, 20-014-23, an ordinance by Councilmembers Amira Faroki, Antonio Brown, and Matt Westmoreland to amend Chapter 94, Human Relations, so as to add a new Article 9 entitled Landlord-Tenant Security Deposit Regulation to provide for related regulations, requirements, and procedures and for other purposes. There's an amendment in your packet which updates Exhibit A and also adds Council Members Bond and Smith as sponsors.
Thank you, Mr. Faroki.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Colleagues, this is a paper that's trying to address the problems presented with many people in our city, and frankly, it's a national problem as well, and that's just folks
oftentimes find it hard to rent an apartment because they don't have the necessary cash on hand to pay upfront for a security deposit. And just as context, I don't think we need it, but I think it's important to state it that we are living in a time in which 49% of Americans don't have $400 on hand to handle an unexpected emergency. Home ownership is increasingly out of reach, and so more and more Americans are renting. That's true in our city as well, as you can tell from the rush to build more and more apartments. A 2019 report by Zillow noted that 35% of renters found that upfront move-in costs, like a security deposit, is an obstacle to securing housing. And so this legislation moves to, frankly, make it a little more affordable for folks to get into an apartment in the city. And it does that by doing something very simple. It simply requires landlords who have 10 or more units to offer one of two options to renters. So one is the current option is always on the table. You can ask someone to pay a security deposit in full up front, and if they do that, so be it. This legislation says if you ask a renter to pay a security deposit that's 60% or more of the first month's rent. So let's just say, for the sake of argument, rent is $1,000. You're saying the security deposit is $750. You have to offer the renter one of two choices: either A, an opportunity to pay that security deposit in 3 installments over 3 months, or B, to allow the renter to get security deposit insurance, which is a thing, and many insurers are already operating in Georgia providing that. So what that would do is essentially the renter would pay $5, $10 a month to insure their security deposit, so if something happens, the landlord is covered. Under any scenario here, the landlord is covered, and they can choose the path that makes them feel most secure, while also giving the renter an option on how to cover the security deposit. That's the heart of it. This bill is the product of months of work. We introduced it back in, I want to say 3 or 4 months ago. We worked with the law department to draft the language, and then worked with a number of stakeholders from the Housing Justice League, Georgia Stand Up, the Atlanta Apartment Association, to look at it, get their response. In fact, we made 2 adjustments at the advice of the Atlanta Apartment Association, which I think are perfectly reasonable. One was instead of allowing people to stretch their security deposit over 6 months, it's now 3 months, the 3 monthly installments as an option. And then this would apply to any apartments or landlord who asks for a security deposit that is at least 60% of the first month's rent. Originally, the drafted language says that it was 50%. And I believe we have an amended version that needs to be adopted. And as part of that amended version, Council members Bond and Smith have asked to add their name to it as well. So I believe that's the next step, is to move to adopt the amended version. And if that is the case, I move to do so.
Ms. Pulandini, is it an amendment or a substitute?
This is an amendment, and actually the first motion would be to amend the legislation and then to approve as amended. The paper hasn't been amended yet.
Motion to amend.
Okay.
Second, Brown.
Motion to amend in a second by Brown. Before we take that action, Ms. Shepard is in the queue, and then I know Ms. Hickson is on the line as well. So let's go with Ms. Shepard, then Ms. Smith, and then no more Ms. Smith. Ms. Shepard and then Ms. Hickson.
Well, I'd like to hear what Ms. Hickson has to say, but then I'll come back. So thank you.
Okay. Madam City Attorney.
Mr. Westmoreland, I just am making you aware that I'm available to discuss this matter should there be any questions that arise. As Mr. Kuroki indicated, he has worked with the law department. We've articulated the concerns that we have, but if there are specific questions about that, we will certainly are happy to answer those.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Shepard, back to you.
Well, I did want to say, I just want to say, based on what I understand now, and Ms. Hickson, correct me if I'm wrong, there's nothing on the state books that would disallow this, from what I'm understanding. I think you all have some concerns about the fact that, in terms of, unless you can tell me from a legal interpretation, if there's something illegal about this, then the only thing we can do is we'll put it forward. If the state push back, then we know where we are. But at this point, unless you correct me if I'm wrong, I'm going to go ahead and support it, and I'd like to add my name to it. So, Ms. Hickson, can you clarify that for me?
What I would clarify is that the position of the law department since May has been consistent on what we think the potential for this being challenged. But as you indicated, the council can certainly do what it deems appropriate to do. And should there be any challenge, the law department will defend it. But that is what I will say for the record.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'm going to go ahead and add my name to it, and we'll see how it goes. Thank you.
All right, so when we get to the amendment, we'll add Ms. Shepard's name in addition to the others. Ms. Archibong.
So I wanted to speak to the paper after it's amended, so I can wait till we take the vote.
Okay, well, let's do it. Motion by Faroki, second by Brown.
The vote is open. Vote is closed.
All right, 7 yeas, 0 nays. The item is amended. Ms. Archibong.
So I want to thank Faroki for all the other sponsors for bringing this opportunity to us to consider, and I've had a conversation with Mr. Faroki, and I have one other question that just occurred to me, and that is around enforceability. We adopt this at full council, and it becomes law. What's the enforcement mechanism?
You're breaking up a little bit, Ms. Archibong. I heard you out.
Button sucks. So my question for Councilmember Faroki, and I thanked him for talking to me prior to this, and I appreciate the opportunity to consider this legislation. But I wondered, so once it becomes law, if it becomes law, and a landlord refuses who fits within the classification, and the amount of the deposit is over the threshold, what happens then when that tenant reports that they've got a landlord who violated this particular code provision? What happens next?
Mr. Faroki.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Councilmember Archibong. I think it's a fair question. I think it's one we'll need to work out with legal as to who in the city will be charged with enforcing it or who will receive complaints. There's no financial penalty associated with it. This is, I think, something that potentially our chief housing officer can weigh in on and offer some support for. And I think we can probably talk to Sherry about it. But this legislation does not explicitly state an enforcement provision or enforcement mechanism. It's really, I think, a hard guideline and a hard rule for our apartment friends to follow, and if we need to bolster it and we're finding high levels of violation, I think we can do that in subsequent legislation.
All right, well, I'm going to abstain at this point. I have some additional questions that I don't want to belabor the point. I do think it's a very provocative and possibly needful, but I do want to think about it and maybe ask you a few more questions offline. So thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Councilor Archibong. And look, if there's an amendment you think it's appropriate before full council, happy to work with you on it.
Mr. Bond.
Thank you.
He is gone.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I had to ask this question of Councilmember Faruqi this morning, but I know that there might be a question, as our esteemed city attorney has pointed out, of a future challenge, but I'm sure that we can certainly do this on properties that have gained or that we regulate to some degree or have some influence over, just as we did on the evictions a few months ago as it relates to COVID-19. Isn't that correct, Mr. Faruqi?
Yes, Councilmember Bond.
Yes, so I just wanted that to be clear, for people who might wonder. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Faruqi. It's a great piece of legislation.
Thank you, Mr. Bond. Ms. Smith.
Thank you. I just want to say that I am really excited about this because, I don't know how to say this, but even if some landlord doesn't do it and we can't, write them a ticket or whatever, I feel like what this is doing, because I had no idea that you could do insurance and pay like $10 a month to pay for your security deposit. I think that one of the things that's really good about this is it's getting the word out to people that are renting, and I've got people that I'm trying to help right now that they're not getting kicked out, but they are being asked to leave, and they're being given some incentives. And so one of the things was I had to call the apartment owners and ask them if they would write the check directly to the other apartment, because one of my people didn't have a bank account. So I'm trying to work through that right now, when now I'm learning from Amir that we've got options. We can tell them that we can't give them a security deposit right away, that we could work it out over 3 months, or that there's insurance even available. So that's one of the reasons I'm supporting this, and I put my name on it, because it's not just giving options to the landlords, it's also sending a message to our renters that there are options.
Thank you for your comments. Any other questions or comments? My computer seems to have frozen.
I hit my button across from Westmoreland.
All right, that's good to know. Mr. Brooks.
I just wanted, I think what Councilmember Smith articulated is really important, which is this insurance already exists. A lot of apartment owners or landlords are already availing themselves of it, and this is a way, I think, to make it more of a widespread option. The point of this is to give renters a choice while still protecting landlords, and so I think Councilmember Smith is spot on in how she articulated one of the benefits of this, which is allowing more people to know this is an option as they go into rent. So I believe we've already amended the paper. I move to approve it.
We've got a motion by Faruqi. Is there a second?
Second, Brown.
A motion by Faruqi and a second by Brown. Please open that vote.
The vote is open.
And I'm bounced off, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. You're
that's the equivalent of a yes vote, Councilmember Archibald.
Yeah.
I vote yes.
This is a collusion here.
Uh-oh. All right. The vote is closed. Can you have the school board read 6 yeas, 0 nays, and 1 abstention from Ms. Archibong?
We'll make that correct, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, may I just comment on one thing to Councilmember Faruqi?
You may comment on one thing.
Yes. Okay. Councilmember Faruqi, I just thought about something when we were talking through this legislation. But would it help if the residential buildings that would, be a part of this process, would it help if they were registered to ensure the enforcement of the legislation, like I know we talked about the enforcement mechanisms, but I just thought about that, and I'm just curious what you thought about it. But I mean, we can discuss it later, but just wanted to tell you that before I forgot.
I appreciate that. I think let's pick it up later. I think that's a question of whether the bureaucracy needs to be created, and there may already be some registration, not that the city collected, but there may already be some registration ledger out there that could be leveraged, but I don't want to put it in it at this point.
Understood. No problem. Thank you, Councilmember. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir. Thank you all. Next item, number 16.
Mr. Chair, if I may just make a quick note about item number 8, which is 20R4315. This was favorable, and it'll now go to the Finance Executive Committee.
Okay. Thank you much. I think you can actually take 16, 17, and 18 together if you'd like.
Okay. Item number 16, 20-0-1405, CDP-20-015, an ordinance by Community Development Human Services Committee to amend the land use element of the 2016 Atlanta Comprehensive Development Plan so as to redesignate property located at 1750 Chattahoochee Avenue Northwest from the industrial land use designation to the high density residential land use designation, and for the purposes V-20-32 NPUD Council District 9, item number 17, 20-0-1406, CDP-20-016, an ordinance by Community Development Human Services Committee to amend the land use element of the 2016 Atlanta Comprehensive Development Plan so as to redesignate property located at 1593 and 1595 Chattahoochee Avenue Northwest from the industrial land use designation to the mixed use medium density land use designation, and for the purposes V-20-33 NPUD Council District 9. And item number 18, 20-0-1407, CDP-20-017, an ordinance by Community Development Human Services Committee to amend the land use element of the 2016 Atlanta Comprehensive Development Plan so as to redesignate property located at 1661 Chattahoochee Avenue Northwest from the industrial land use designation to the very high density residential land use designation, and for the purposes V-20-34 NPUD Council District 9.
Thank you, colleagues. We received a note from Councilmember Hillis this morning concerning these three pieces of legislation, and given his comments in that email, I will make a motion to approve.
Second, Brown.
Second.
Vote is open.
7 yeas, 0 nays. Those three items are favorable. Next up, item number 20.
20-0-1501, CDP-20-024, an ordinance by Community Development Human Services Committee to adopt Atlanta Beltline Sub-Area 9 and 10 Master Plans, the Atlanta Beltline Sub-Area 9 and 10 Master Plan update to amend the 2016 Comprehensive Development Plan by incorporating by reference said plans and for other purposes, NPUs G, J, K, L, and T, Council Districts 3 and 9.
Thank you much. Any questions or comments for Ms. Lavendier on this item? All right. If not, I will make a motion to approve.
Second, Brown.
Motion by Westmoreland, second by Brown.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
All right. 7 yeas, 0 nays. That item is adopted. Next up is item, let's actually do 25 and 26, and then we will come back to number 23.
Okay. Item number 25. 20-R-4311. Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry. For item number 20, could we please go back? The item should have been amended to attach the updated master plans and appendices, so we'll have to reconsider the vote. My apologies.
No, that's okay. I didn't read my note, and we should attach the plan before.
Come in, Smith.
Motion to reconsider by Smith, second by Westmoreland.
One moment, please. The vote is open.
All right. 7 yeas, 0 nays. The item is back before us. Ms. Smith, I'll take your motion to amend now.
Motion to amend. Smith.
Is there a second?
Let Brown do it.
Yep. Mr. Brown, you there?
I am so sorry. Yes, I am here. Second.
All right. Motion to amend by Smith, second by Brown.
The vote is open.
All right. 7 yeas, 0 nays. The item is amended. I will now make a motion to approve as amended.
Second, Brown.
Motion by Westmoreland, second by Brown.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
My computer froze again, but I will assume that is 7 yeas, 0 nays. The item is adopted as amended. Correct me if I'm wrong.
That's correct. That's correct, Mr. Chair.
Okay. In that case, you take us back to item number 25.
Yes. Item number 25, 20-R-4311, CDP-20-029, a resolution by Community Development Human Services Committee to transmit the capital improvements element, which includes capital improvements that the city intends to fund in whole or in part with development impact fees, to the Georgia Department of Community Affairs and the Atlanta Regional Commission in compliance with the requirements of the Georgia Development Impact Fee Act and for the purposes, and there's an amendment in your packet to attach an updated Exhibit A.
I'll make a motion to amend. Is there a second?
Second, Brown.
Motion by Westmoreland, second by Brown.
Vote is open.
All right, 7 yeas, 0 nays. The amended item is before us. Before we take action, Ms. Callen or Mr. Keene or Ms. Sidifel, would any of you speak briefly to, or as long as you'd like, about this piece of legislation, the process that we've gone through, and what next steps are? You may be muted. Anybody from planning here?
We're checking, Mr. Chair, one moment.
Okay.
Good afternoon. This is Kimberly Thomas from the Department of City Planning. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Good afternoon, Councilmember Westmoreland and other staff, the members of the CDHS committee. The legislation before you is to transmit the annual capital improvement element that is required by the state in order to comply with the Georgia Development Impact Fee Act. What we have before you is a compilation of the required financial report that gives a high-level summary of the prior year's completed audit of the impact fee fund, as well as a summary of the schedule of projects that either have been previously approved to receive impact fee funds or have been recently deemed eligible for impact fee funding. This requirement is to be done every year and adopted by October 31st, whereas this year we received an extension due to COVID. So we're working for final adoption for February 2021. So with that, the next steps in this process will be once we move forward favorably today, assuming so, we will be forward full council on Monday. We would transmit to DCA and AMC before the end of October. And then once we receive the responses back from ARC and DCA, assuming those are favorable, we'll be back before council in January to begin the process for final adoption.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments from the committee? All right. If not, I will make a motion to approve as amended. Is there a second?
Second, Brown.
Motion by Westmoreland, second by Brown.
Vote is open.
Vote is closed. 7 yeas, 0 nays. That item is favorable as amended. Item 26.
20-R-4318, a resolution by council members Matt Westmoreland, Carla Smith, Jerome Shepard, Michael Julian Bond, Antonio Brown, and Madeline M. Archibong, as amended by Community Development and Human Services Committee, approving a deployment plan for the Equitable Growth Grant Program focused on the creation and attraction of high-quality middle-wage jobs and for other purposes. And there's a substitute in your packet which adds additional whereas clauses and also updates the exhibit.
I will make the motion to bring forward the substitute. Is there a second?
Second, Brown.
Second by Brown.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
7 yeas, 0 nays. The substitute is before us. Dr. Clementage, you are up. Welcome, and why don't you walk us through this attachment?
Here we go. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Well, it's a pleasure to be here before this committee, Chair, and just want to thank you again for all the support in this plan. We're really, really excited about what is before you. I was here before you speaking about the One Atlanta Economic Mobility and Recovery and Resiliency Plan. That plan prioritized creating good jobs and promising jobs, particularly for residents without college degrees or located in disinvested neighborhoods. Now we are off to work on the implementation of our plan. Hence why I'm so, as I mentioned, excited to be with you here today. In 2020, the City Council earmarked $1.6 million for us to work with you to develop a fund that could support the job creation of this specific category of middle wage earners in the city of Atlanta. Hence, Invest Atlanta, we've designed the Middle Wage Job Fund. We're calling it the EOF Middle Wage Job Fund, of which we are considering it to be a pilot program. This fund supports the implementation by aligning the priorities of the mobility strategy with what are needed to hire individuals within the middle wage job. In particular, this grant will incentivize private employers to create new middle wage jobs and hire disadvantaged Atlantans to fill those jobs. Let me just give you a quick overview on how this program will work. Any project considered for the Middle Wage Job Fund grant must demonstrate a high public benefit for all Atlantans. This public benefit must be demonstrated by the hiring of disadvantaged and target residents who are unemployed or in low-wage jobs. What are we looking for? We are looking for a new middle wage job. That means employers must create one net new position with a middle wage salary of $40,000 to $80,000, offering benefits that includes health care insurance, and the job must be sustained for a minimum of a year. Second is that they have to hire from the targeted populations, and I'm going to go through that in just a moment. And three, there's going to be rigorous compliance, meaning employers must agree to submit annual reports, company-specific compliance reports, net new jobs, wages, benefits, capital investments, proof of disadvantaged category, zip code in which it's coming from, which the employee is coming from, and then agree to provisions of what we're calling an economic empowerment and equity statement. The way it will work is that the grants will be offered on a discretionary basis, and the amounts will be set based on the scale of the total net new jobs that a company is able to hire here in Atlanta. So additional grant dollars may be committed for locations in disinvested neighborhoods, and there will be bonus qualifiers. So basically, if I'm an employer and I hire anywhere from 1 to 49 individuals, middle wage jobs within the categories that I'm going to go over in just a moment, they would be able to receive $1,000 per job that they are able to provide. And that then, we would then increase that. If you hire 50 to 99, that amount goes to 1,250. If you hire 100 to 149 individuals, then it's 1,700. 150 plus is $2,000 per job. Now, let me be very specific on the type. What are we considering as our target populations for hiring? 1, veterans, disabled individuals, homeless individuals, someone who's experienced homelessness within a year, unemployed for over a year, earning less than the Atlanta living wage as determined by the Atlanta Regional Commission, ex-offenders, individuals age 55 plus who have been out of work for more than a year, individuals referred to us by WorkSource Atlanta and our workforce development partners, residents in a disinvested neighborhood as defined, tying specifically right back to our One Atlanta economic mobility strategy, and high school graduates with minimal or no college experience. Now, what I'm really excited about this is, 1, it supports the plan, the One Atlanta plan equity plan. 2, it really helps start to really merge the opportunity between Atlanta, the Invest Atlanta, and the Atlanta WorkSource. Here, as part of the target population is if we get a referral from Atlanta WorkSource, they being the company, would be able to receive this incentive. We will also plan to issue an RFP for other potential partners who are minded at trying to find jobs for the category of the target populations we are looking to target. Now, I do just want to quickly highlight, we are going to ask for annual reporting. We're going to be very specific on compliance. Again, we want to know the zip codes that the grantee and the employees are coming from. They got to be residents of the city of Atlanta. We want to ensure that the salary fits within the salary range. We want to understand which disinvested category they're in. And then we want to understand how the company, because this has to be a benefit to the city, how is the company providing and focused on their community engagement and philanthropic activity in the city of Atlanta. Now, over a 3-year period, we're excited from 20 to 23. We have run some analysis working with the ARC, and I want to specifically call out Mike at the ARC for all of his support and us running some of these numbers. We said if in a 3-year period, let's say we were able to work with 8 companies and we were able to hire potentially 325 of our target population, that we estimate would cost the city or this fund about $420,000. So if we were able to hire 325 people, and if we have the multiplier effect, we know that another 240 jobs would be impacted here in the overall economy. So the total jobs would be around 565. Those jobs taken together would equate to around $44 million. In other words, with an investment by the city of $420,000 in our targeted population, the city could support an extra $44 million into the city's economy. So what we are very excited about is not only is this supporting our One Atlanta Economic Mobility Plan, not only does this help with the integration between Invest Atlanta and WorkSource Atlanta, not only are we going to be providing middle wage jobs to our target population, but this makes economic sense to the city in terms of rates of return that the city gets for this type of investment. So again, I've structured this as a pilot program. We've looked for models across the nation. I've only found 2 others. And so we may have to come back with you because a lot of this is going to be market driven. Is this the right number? We're looking based on where we've seen with Cold Austin to see what they're doing, but we may have to come back and at 6 months come back and make an adjustment. Or if we got it right the first time, which would be amazing, we won't have to make any modifications. But I will tell you, we're excited about the implementation. We're excited what this can mean to the city of Atlanta and to our targeted population. Thank you.
Thank you. I can tell you are excited, and I am as well. Colleagues, any questions or comments? All right. I will make a motion to approve on substitute.
Is there a second, Brown?
Motion by Westmoreland, second by Brown.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
7 yeas, 0 nays. That item is favorable on substitute. Thank you very much, Dr. Clementich, for all of your work on this. I'm excited to see what the future brings.
Thank you.
All right. Our final item of the day, colleagues, is item number 23.
20-C-0078, a communication from Marion Cameron, Chair, Audit Committee, submitting the Performance Audit Report, Management of Live Nation Lease Agreements.
Ms. Noble.
Good afternoon. This is Amanda Noble, City Auditor, and Mike Jones, Audit Manager in our office, will be presenting the report. Go ahead, Mike.
Good afternoon, Council members and Council Chair. Thank you for allowing us to present performance audit for Management of Live Nation Lease Agreement. We undertook this audit after the community concerns were raised about Live Nation's compliance with lease agreement terms at the Lakewood Amphitheater. These concerns were also shared with the Audit Committee. Since Live Nation also holds the lease for Chastain Park's Amphitheater, we included this venue in the scope of our audit. Next slide. The audit objectives for this audit were to determine if the city is managing contracts to ensure Live Nation is paying all base and percentage rents due according to the terms outlined in the contract, and to determine if the city is managing contract to ensure Live Nation is complying with all provisions of their contract as required. Next slide. The scope of this audit covered operations and documentation from Live Nation and Chastain Park's Amphitheater. We encountered some difficulty obtaining supporting documentation to complete some aspects of our review. Documentation requested from Live Nation would have been helpful to verify revenue paid to the city. Unfortunately, language in both contracts with Live Nation did not require them to comply with our request. As a result, we were unable to confirm the city received all revenue due according to provisions outlined in each contract and sponsorship agreement. Our methodology included reviewing contracts and amendments and sponsorship agreements from Live Nation, from Lakewood and Chastain Park Amphitheaters, from as early as 1987 and 2009 when Live Nation took over. We also reviewed city code, state, and federal laws and regulations related to venue management. We analyzed financial documentation as well as sound readings from events held during concert seasons from 2016 to 2019. We interviewed staff from 4 different offices and departments and subject matter experts with Live Nation. A key step in our methodology included consultation with the Department of Law regarding clarification on a number of contract provisions as well as assistance with documentation requests. Next slide, please. The background information for each amphitheater shows how the city should be paid according to revenue terms included in each lease agreement. Both lease agreements pay base rent and a percentage of net proceeds from sponsorship agreements that are in effect. However, there are some key differences between the two venues. The seat surcharge is only applied with the Chastain Park lease agreement, and percentage rent is only applied with the Lakewood lease agreement. Next slide, please. Some of our findings are stated here. We found contract language for both venues needed strengthening. Inspections were not performed at Lakewood before deducting maintenance credit claimed. Reliable sound monitoring equipment was not installed. Departmental oversight was inadequate, and sponsorship agreement at Lakewood was unclear. Our finding with the revenue entry error has been corrected. Next slide, please. We found contracts at both venues need strengthening to facilitate revenue verification. This table shows revenue paid to the city from 2016 to 2018. Live Nation provides Department of Enterprise Asset Management and Department of Parks and Recreation revenue summaries or invoices annually for revenue paid to the city. Only one of 6 summaries or invoices provided included supporting documentation for the revenue paid to the city, and that was for FY 2018 for Chastain Park. Our recommendation adds language to the contract that requires Live Nation to provide box office statements, ticket manifests, and reports that show revenue can be that revenue can be independently verified. Earlier versions of Chastain Park contract included these deliverables before they were removed in contract amendments. Next slide, please. In 2009, an amendment to the Lakewood contract included an incentive for Live Nation to pay the city lower percentages on percentage rent items such as gross ticket sales and concessions if they made a $3 million capital investment within 3 years. We found Live Nation did not complete this required amount of capital improvements and opted to pay the top percentages in 2013. Next slide, please. Lakewood's contract requires Live Nation to perform maintenance that includes kudzu weed control to qualify for maintenance deduction credits. These credits can reduce the revenue paid to the city up to $48,000 per year. During the site visit to Lakewood in January of 2019, we noticed kudzu overgrowth on the amphitheater building, the Gate 5 entrance on Lakewood Avenue, and next to the parking lot entering from Pryor Circle. Next slide, please. We requested sound readings from events held at Chastain Park from 2016 to 2019. Department of Parks and Recreation was only able to recover 67% of the sound readings due to the cyber attack. Initial interviews indicated that there were no sound ordinance violations. According to Live Nation and CEI, which is the vendor who provides sound monitors and calibrates the equipment prior to each event, the Grosser system is old and unreliable and produces inaccurate results. Even though we found 3 events that violated the sound ordinance, Chastain's contract has permissive language that permits the city to issue fines but does not require it. Although no sound monitoring equipment was installed at Lakewood Amphitheater, APD received 27 noise complaints during the events held at the amphitheater from 2016 to 2018. Next slide, please. The city may be owed additional revenue from the Lakewood sponsorship agreement. Our reviews show that the Department of Enterprise Asset Management did not collect sponsorship revenue in 2017 and did not verify the payment from the 2018 concert season. Live Nation provided 2 separate sponsorship agreements that contain conflicting revenue amounts due to the city. City staff did not resolve the discrepancy with Live Nation. Furthermore, Live Nation's contract was unclear as to the specific percentage of the name and title sponsorship agreement Live Nation should pay to the city. Next slide, please. The Office of Contract Compliance staff found Live Nation had not submitted minority participation reports for the Lakewood or Chastain Park concert venues. We also found the Department of Parks and Recreation has not submitted mandated reports to the City Council submitted with the Oversight Authority, which is CDHS, I'm sorry. Next slide, please. as I mentioned earlier, this entry area has already been corrected. Next slide, please. To help each department verify revenue paid to the city, we recommend adding language to the contract to require Live Nation to provide box office statements, ticket manifests, and reports. Because contracts at the amphitheater are long-term contracts that's executed as early as 1987, it does not contain the same audit clause that is present in most city contracts. We recommend updating the audit clause on the Lakewood and the Chastain Park contracts. And add a provision to require penalties for late payments. Next slide, please. Due to uncertainty over who is responsible for installing sound monitoring equipment at Lakewood, we recommend adding language to the contract to clarify these roles and responsibilities. We also recommend adding language to the contract that sets revenue payments for the name and title sponsorship agreement and specifies any required documentation. We also recommend requiring electronic payments for rent. Next slide, please. Although Live Nation indicated the sponsorship agreement with State Bank was previously vetted by the law department, we have no documentation to show this occurred. We recommend updating the audit clause and name and title sponsorship clause on the Chastain Park contract. Next slide, please. To ensure adequate oversight, we recommend requiring staff to request and review supporting documentation to confirm rental payments are correct and require the Department of Parks to provide revenue reports to CDHS as required. Next slide, please. To ensure adequate oversight, we also recommend requiring staff to request and review supporting documentation for the Lakewood Amphitheater concert venue as well, and to require inspections for maintenance, the maintenance obligations at the Lakewood Amphitheater, and before authorizing reductions for the maintenance credit. Next slide, please. To ensure compliance with the sound monitoring requirements of the Chastain contract, we recommend the Department of Parks and Recreation work with Live Nation to evaluate the sound monitoring equipment and provide records, replacement, and repair, records for replacement, repairs, and calibration of the sound monitoring equipment. Of the 15 recommendations, the affected agency either agreed or partially agreed with the recommendation. Department of Enterprise Asset Management partially agreed with recommendations 1, 2, and 4. This concludes the presentation. We'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you much. Before we move into questions, do we have folks from both the Department of Parks and Recreation and the Office of Enterprise Asset Management on the line?
And Mr. Chair, put me in line to speak after you finish. This is Councilman Shepherd.
I certainly will. Commissioner Burks.
And put Council President Moore in line too.
Ms. Burks, was that you?
Yes, LaShondra Burks is here, and if I'm not mistaken, I think the Commissioner Dean is on as well.
Okay. Mr. DEAM, are you here as well?
I know he's on. He may need to be unmuted.
Okay. All right, let's find a way to unmute him, and we are going to start with Mr. Brown, Ms. Shepherd, and Ms. Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So my question is, one, I wanted to understand whether or not these recommendations, especially when you get into the Live Nation contractual obligation, and the aspect in which they were not meeting within the contract, are these recommendations, I know you stated that some of the departments agreed with some of them and didn't agree with others. Are there any recommendations made by the audit team that specifically states that these should be city code changes, or are these just standard operating procedure changes that you're making a recommendation of?
This is Amanda Noble.
I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Mike.
Michael Jones, these recommendations were specific to the contract.
Understood that. I understood that. But with regard to the changes that, or the recommendations that you're making within the contract, do they result in any city code ordinance changes, or are they just simply changes within the standard operating procedures and how they go through the contractual obligations within the various departments that you spoke about?
I believe it's more specific to the contract management of each particular contract. A lot of the findings that we reported had a great deal to do with the contract management.
Okay, so understanding that the recommendations that you all have made are specific to the management of the contract, are you making any recommendations to ensure that that this doesn't happen again? Because one of the things that stood out to me within these recommendations was, Live Nation not fulfilling their commitment to the contractual obligation, and I believe I don't remember exactly what specifically that commitment was, but I know it was something they had to reinvest back into. I'm not sure what exactly, but you stated they were not meeting that obligation. So outside of this audit and outside of making these recommendations, is there anything that's going to ensure that we don't come down, that we don't go back down this path again, I guess is what I'm trying to find out.
This is Amanda Noble. Let me go ahead and answer. So first of all, I don't think we said that I don't think we concluded that Live Nation wasn't meeting an obligation, because we really couldn't audit their performance against the contract without being able to review their documents. So our main recommendation is for the city to renegotiate some of these old contract provisions. I'm not sure. Did that answer your question, Councilmember Brown?
No, not really.
Okay.
And I apologize, Ms. Noble. So I heard Michael specifically state that Live Nation in the contract had an obligation to meet that they did not meet. What obligation was that? Or was I hearing things? Maybe I was hearing things.
Mr. Brown, I can give you more specifics because I know all the details, everything you're asking. I think you're trying to understand, but if you allow me to speak, at some point I will give you more details in terms of how all of this came to be. All right? And what's
Absolutely.
happened.
Absolutely, Councilmember. I'll cease my questioning and yield back to my colleague.
Say that one more time. You're yielding?
Yes, Mr. Chair. I'm gonna yield to Councilmember Shepherd to be able to provide further clarity on my questioning.
Good deal. Ms. Shepherd.
Thank you. This particular this audit was something that Live Nation has been in my district since the 80s. It's really not Live Nation, it's Lakewood Amphitheater. And Live Nation actually only picked the contract up from several entities before them, way back when, even before me in the 80s when the amphitheater was originally opened. It encompasses 3 neighborhoods, 3 MPUs. It touches MPU-Y, MPU-X, and MPU-Z. So when the amphitheater was first opened up and there was a lot of pushback from the community in terms of the impact it would have on the neighborhoods, the traffic, noise, trash, the whole 9 yards. There was a huge agreement that was actually done through the city that talked about several different things. And even right now, in all three of these MPUs, they actually have a Lakewood Oversight Committee that still exists from the 80s to today, with people on it from MPU X, Y, and Z that holds Lakewood Amphitheater, now Live Nation being the leasing of it, accountable in terms of their structure. So, but what I'm finding as I came on as a council member way back when is that this contract is very old. It was done in the 80s. When I talked to the law department, they said Councilmember Shepherd, and this is the law department before the ones that are here now. It's an obsolete contract that no one has ever in the city looked at thoroughly or tried to change. And this is the first audit that has ever been done since the 80s. And this came about because there became questions as I began to dig into the contract along with the community at what funding they were getting. There's a cost in terms of the city, MPUX on Live Nation Lakewood, that after $100,000, every 25 cents of money that's spent on a ticket will come back to the community. And that sounds great. And back in the days when Lakewood Amphitheater was booming, people would die. The result of that would be $100,000 in the community a year or more. Since things have changed, they're not getting that kind of revenue now. But even the revenue they're getting, as I began to read through the contract in the last 4 or 5 years, began to look at things, I began to question the validity of some of the things that happened. And so that was when I finally, the community, along with myself, said, let's do an audit. So we did an audit, and the result of this audit is not surprising. And some of it, most of it, though, however, is specifically around the contract with the city. And I would tell you that I think a lot of it is unaccountability on the city side, because we had nobody really tracking this, nobody was looking at it. And so to that point, I'm not surprised by what I see. I was around when they did a re-up of the contract in 2009, and a part of that was the $3 million that was supposed to be put into actually repairing the Lakewood Amphitheater and putting things in. And I remember Mr. Don Lavelle, who's no longer with us, he was actually very actively involved with that, with the lawyer, not by the name of Lim Ward and all of them. And I kept asking Mr. Lavelle about this. We met several times with Peter Connolly and all these other folks. It was always a pushback from them. So I'm not surprised by any of this in terms of what's going on. Again, Mr. Brown, most of the specifics of this is actually in the contract with Live Nation and the lease. And I have a book in my office that's huge that talks about what they're supposed to do. They have not been complying. Another flag came up in the community was minority. They're supposed to have minority participation in terms of actually hiring people during the summer when they have their concerts. There was questions about that. There was questions about the funding, how much was coming. It was a series of different questions. And so we began to ask these questions, and this audit is bringing all of that out. Now, for me, what I'm looking at in terms of the Office of Enterprise Management, the Department of Enterprise Management, and Parks, the property is actually, Parks Department owns the property, but it's really up under the umbrella of Department Office and all of that, because Parks doesn't really have anything to do with it. So we do have a lease of that, just like we do for Chastain Park. But I truly believe that we're getting ripped off by Live Nation. I shouldn't say ripped off. I should say that we're not getting what we need from Live Nation. But it really is more accountability in my mind in terms of this agreement that it should be that the city is looking at it. For me, the question as a council member is the next step in terms of what are we going to do to hold them more accountable, specifically around the contracts. I see all of these recommendations, but what I want to do is sit down with everybody together to talk about how do we move on these recommendations, because it's not just something that we can just say, here's what we recommend. And I just heard Ms. Noble say, or someone say that the Department OEM said, the Department of Enterprise Access Management said that they only said that they supported 3 of the recommendations. I just have a lot of questions here that this is an internal meeting with me and my community. They've already told me they also have a copy of the audit. They're looking over it also, and they're requesting a meeting also in terms of going on this audit because they were the ones, along with myself, who questioned this. So here's where we are, and we got a lot of work to do to correct this, a huge amount of work. So to that point, I would like to have, this is much, Mr. Brown, I hear your questions, but this is really a lot that's going to be digested. It's very complicated, and we're going to be working very closely with the department to talk about how we're going to really fix this. Most of the problems are at Lakewood. There are some flags at testing, but Lakewood is getting the short end of the stick on our side. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. You clarified all of the questions that I had through your statement, so thank you so much.
All right. Ms. Moore.
Yes, I'm going to be brief on one issue that I heard the auditors say that they weren't able to have access to the financials to be able to actually do an audit. So I don't think at this point, at least for me, there's a determination one way or the other. So my question to the law department, administration, is someone working to create the contract amendments that are needed to be clear that the city has access to whatever records they need to be able to conduct an audit?
Good afternoon. This is Donna Wilson with the Law Department. And President Moore, I'd like to respond to that question. We've had preliminary discussions with Gene and Parks and Rec about the audit recommendations. So we will be sitting down in the upcoming months to review the recommendations and in particular the audit requirements. I do know that there were some discussions previously with Live Nation in terms of obtaining that information, and certain recommendations included maybe entering into a confidentiality agreement with them. So this is something else we'll continue to discuss with Gene and Parks and Rec, and we will definitely hope to have productive discussions with Live Nation to ensure we can get those modifications acted upon.
And you said in the coming months, because I think I heard also that previous contracts allowed for the audit provision, and the more recent version took it out. So, and I'll just say, I know Ms. Shepherd is going to work on it because it does impact our community, but I do think at anything that we need to get this worked out, because otherwise you'll never be able to verify anything if we are not able to have access to their records. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
This is Nina Hickson, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
I just wanted it to be clear that the provisions that she's talking about, which should be standard provisions in any municipal contract, all preceded Ms. Wilson or any of us being here. So this has been an activity in which we've been engaged for a while. Part of the issue has been that, there would need to be agreement to an amendment. We can't unilaterally do it. We were not able to find out why those provisions, which are typical municipal provisions, were not in that particular contract. But what we have done on a citywide basis is that we have gone through a process of amending and attempting to align all city contracts with standard provisions, because there's no way there should be a contract where city money is involved where there's not the opportunity to amend. So just to be clear, these are provisions that precede anybody who's on the call. But in an effort to try to get all of the city contracts in alignment, we have worked to create contract templates as well as a contract guidebook so that we can make sure those kinds of provisions are not eliminated. Thank you.
Ms. Moore, any other comments, questions?
No, just I think that mistake is preceding her. I just think that, and they say they're working on it. That's something that needs to be.
I can't hear you, Ms. Moore. Your mumble, Ms. Moore, your mumble. I can't hear you.
Is this better? Is this better? Yeah, I just said Ms. Hickson is correct. She, the current law department wasn't here, and I think that was stated earlier. It's just that we've got to figure out a way to fix it. Because otherwise you really aren't going to get a clear audit report unless it gets fixed. And I understand it has to be an agreement on both sides, but I do think the city does have leverage in some way or other. But that's all I have. Thank you.
If I may, this is Amanda Noble. I did talk to Steve Leibovitz last week, and he stated that the Live Nation wants to cooperate moving forward and reach agreement with us reviewing the records, and sort of apologize with a miscommunication with corporate counsel or something that prevented movement this time. So it does sound like they are willing to come to the table and renegotiate some of those really old provisions.
Well, I find that to be interesting. I'm not going to go into too much legal discussion over on here because it may get into some legal issues. But I've talked to Mr. Leibovitz and Mr. Connolly, and they're giving one side of the story. I'm hearing the other. I've been in contact with the law department and you all, Ms. Noble, from the time we've been doing this audit, and it was continuously said that you all couldn't get records from Live Nation. I even talked during that process when you all were trying to get the audit done, and I reached out to both other entities from Live Nation and talked to them about it. And so I found it to be interesting, but what I'm saying is we're going to have to really do some behind-the-scenes discussions. I don't want to talk about this openly here in the public forum. There may be some legal issues coming back later, but we do have a problem here. Thank you.
All right. I have a couple questions of my own before we move on. The first is a comment on page 1 of the audit. It references that the agreement we're discussing right now is through 2034, which is a long time away. On slide 7, toward the bottom, it says the Chastain contract requires Live Nation to provide specific documents to support ticket revenue, name and title sponsorship agreements, and parking fees. Live Nation only provided contractually required documentation for the 2018 concert season at Chastain. Is that or is that not a breach of contract?
What was the last part of your question?
I would let the law department answer if that's a breach of contract. But I think we told them, we asked for a lot of documents. Most of them were not required by the contract because we were asking about the Lakewood, but we did mention that some of what we were asking for was required by the contract and never received that either.
Okay. Does anyone from the law department have a similar question for a sentence on page 10? Anyone from the law?
This is Donna Wilson from the Law Department, Councilmember Westmoreland. We have not had discussions with either Dean or Parks and Rec as to whether or not they've requested information and deemed that Live Nation is in breach. So as we're going through these recommendations, we again can take a closer look at that.
Okay. I'll flag the middle paragraph of page 10 saying that only summary level information was provided for the 2016 and 17 seasons. On page 14, Live Nation has not submitted minority participation reports for the venues and has not met minority participation requirements for its Chastain subcontractors. In the middle of page 14, Enterprise Assets Management has not visited the park to ensure that the maintenance has been performed. Can DEAM speak to why that is the case?
And this is Amanda. I'm not sure if DEM is on the line, but when we were finalizing the audit, I think they said it was a resource issue and they agreed they should do it, and that was one of the recommendations they agreed with.
Okay. As for not being on the line, I know this is going to FCC tomorrow, and so I'll work to ensure that someone is present for the second iteration of this contract conversation.
I can also possibly answer one of your other questions. I don't think that Parks asked for the information beyond the summary information in 2016 and 2017. We asked for it and didn't get it, but I didn't think Parks did.
Okay. And then on page 16, when it references 3 concerts at Lakewood, or excuse me, at Chastain, exceeding the sound limits, and that the city only issued a fine for one of those 3 concerts. Can anybody speak as to why that is the case?
I think we laid out in the audit, and I will definitely let Parks respond as well, but the belief is that the sound system at Chastain is unreliable, and there are reasons to believe that the system wasn't accurate.
Got it. Okay. Is that your sense as well, Ms. Felderbrooks?
Mr. Westmoreland?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, yes. That is what we discovered as well, which is why there was another recommendation around the sound system that came out as a result of that. So and we definitely support that one. We only asked, I think, when these recommendations were given to us, it was that we would try to do this by the 2020 season, and we were just asking that we can take the 21 season, considering we are not having a season.
Okay.
Yes, this is Amanda. And so when we wrote the recommendation, it was pre-COVID, and we obviously were unaware that the concert season would be canceled.
Yeah.
For sure. That's what I'm thinking.
For sure. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? All right. Ms. Fulendini, do we move to accept and file, or do we need to refer this to FEC?
You can. The committee should accept and file. It'll automatically go to FEC since it's a dual referral.
Okay. I will make that motion. Is there a second?
Second, Brown.
Vote is open.
Could you mark me as a yay? I'm out of the system.
Yes, ma'am. 7 yeas, 0 nays. That item is accepted and filed. That brings us to the end of our agenda for the day. Thank you, everybody. If there are no other comments, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn, Smith.
Motion to adjourn by Smith, which I will second.
Thank you, everyone.
Yes, sir.
Just want to remind everyone that today is election day. So if you live in the 5th Congressional District, you should go out to vote. And tomorrow is the deadline, or the initial deadline, of the census. Now, there's a court in California that extended the deadline, but the Trump administration is expected to challenge that ruling. So in an abundance of caution, please advise everyone you know within the sound of our voices to fill out their census form. It's only 10 questions. It takes less than 10 minutes. but it will affect us for 10 years. So with that, that's my public service announcement. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate those comments. All right, everyone, we stand adjourned. Thank you.
Great meeting. Bye.